Chapter 2304. The sword light around the swordsman's body faintly appeared, and he curled up like a hedgehog. Although the flames were fierce, they could hardly break through his defense. Zilala. Another sound that made the swordsman's heart tremble was heard. It was actually Zhen Hua's thunder-trapping bead. A seemingly weak lightning covered his head. The swordsman hurriedly raised his hand, and a sword light appeared in his palm, sweeping a large gap in the lightning net. However, the rest of the lightning still fell on the sword light on the swordsman's body. This lightning wasn't very powerful, but when it fell on the sword light, a purple-red color suddenly appeared in the sword light. It was the lightning that was wreaking havoc in the swordsman's body. Under the pincer attack, the sword light suddenly dimmed. Su Qing's flames took advantage of this and immediately ignited the swordsman's entire body. At the same time, the other three swordsmen were easily killed by the combined forces of Cui Hongshan, Zhen Minghui, and the others. At this point, the 30-plus swordsmen were completely annihilated by the Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. N30 drawn swordsman is this young master's limit. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over, and he had a plan in his heart. If he didn't reveal his full strength, he would have to protect these 9 Imperial Thunder Sect disciples, and not let a single swordsman escape. He could only face 30 drawn swordsmen, and there couldn't be many drawn swordsmen. The chances of 30 drawn swordsmen appearing in the first stage of the battle aren't many, right? Xiao Hua thought to himself. Zhen Hua Dui Ling, bring the corpses of these swordsmen over. Xiao Hua withdrew his phoenix celestial body and instructed them. Yes. Dui Ling answered crisply, her face full of excitement. Just now, she used lightning strike to smash a drawn swordsman into the ground from midair. This was definitely something she could show off in the future. Apart from Cui Hongshan and Zhen Minghui who didn't move, Dui Qiming, Ming Mao, and the rest of the 7 people all moved. They flew to different places and brought the corpses of the 30-plus swordsmen over. The swordsmen killed by the lightning and fire didn't seem to be much, but the swordsmen killed by the soaring dragon shears were very miserable and bloody. Dui Qiming and the other 2 female cultivators couldn't bear it. Even Cui Hongshan frowned slightly. Xiao Hua saw this and didn't say anything. He only said, "Burn their corpses and take out everything from their storage pouches. Everyone can choose a flying sword. If there are any pills, spirit herbs, spirit stones, and other items from my Dao sect in the storage bag, please distribute them to everyone. As for the rest, I will keep them." Xiao Hua's words were somewhat overbearing, but no one had any objections. "Ah, Captain Cui, why are there so many pills and spirit stones in the storage bags of these swordsmen?" Chiyosu was the first to realize that something was wrong and hurriedly shouted, "Isn't it obvious? I wonder how many Dao sect disciples have died at their hands." Cui Hongshan's brows relaxed when he saw these items. You're exaggerating." Xiao Hua didn't think too much about it. Seeing so many things come out of the swordsman's storage pouch, he was also shocked. He couldn't help but feel regret. Fortunately, Dui Qiming was extremely tactful. She gathered everything into a few storage pouches and only took half of the medicinal pills, spirit herbs, and spirit stones. She didn't take any of the magic tools or treasures, and left them all in the storage pouches. She then brought a few more storage pouches to Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "Junior brother Xiao, these swordsmen were all killed by you. So it's fine for us to take a little advantage of you. You should take these." Seeing Dui Qiming like this, Xiao Hua felt embarrassed. He took the storage pouches and took out the pills and spirit herbs. Then he took out the 30 flying swords and said with a smile. Dui Ling said it just now, and this Xiao also agreed. Everyone will get a flying sword. No one can't take it. Otherwise, this Xiao won't have any face. Haha. Dui Ling was very happy and almost jumped up. However, she wasn't in a hurry to be the first to choose. Instead, she looked at Cui Hongshan and Zhen Minghui. Cui Hongshan also liked these flying swords, but when he saw Xiao Hua's smile, he still felt unhappy. He hesitated in his heart. This Shun's thoughts are the same as Dui Ling's. Moreover, these are the flying swords of the drawing swordsmen. They are no small matter. If we don't take them now, when will we? Captain Cui, this Zhen will pick first." As he spoke, Zhen Minghui's divine sense swept over, and picked up a flying sword that was 3 inches long. There were faint flames rising from the inside of the sword, and he held it in his hand happily. Although Xiaohua directly called out his name just now, he didn't seem to feel that it was inappropriate. This Su won't be polite either. Su Qing went forward with a smile, and also picked a sword. Xiaohua looked and his heart moved. His divine sense swept over the storage pouches, and he picked up a few sword slips to check. Soon after, Ming Mao and the others also picked up a sword each. In the end, only Cui Hongshen and Dui Qiming didn't have a choice among the Foundation establishment cultivators. Seeing Dui Ling and the other 2 aura refining disciples' eager expressions and Cui Hongshen's hesitant expression, Dui Qiming sighed. She took a step forward and said with a smile, "Hongshen, I want 2 flying swords. You don't pick." Cui Hongshen's heart lightened, and he pretended to be indifferent as he responded. Just as Dui Qiming was about to randomly pick 2 flying swords, her figure paused for a moment, and her gaze fell on 2 unremarkable flying swords at the edge of the room. With a wave of her hand, 2 similar-looking flying swords fell into her hands. "Oh, martial uncle, these 2 flying swords are so ugly," Dui Ling complained. "I'm afraid they're the worst among these flying swords, right?" Dui Qiming smiled and said, "That's not necessarily true. Maybe these flying swords are used by those 3rd-grade swordsmen." As she spoke, her gaze swept over Xiaohua, who had just transmitted a message to her, as if nothing had happened. Soon after, Dui Qiming, Zhenhua, and Baisu Gu each picked a flying sword that they liked. As for these magic tools, each person can also take 2. Xiaohua received the flying swords and waved his hand, taking out about 20 magic tools. "Haha, that's great, that's great." Dui Ling and Zhenhua clapped their hands and each chose 2 magic tools of slightly lower quality without hesitation. Seeing Xiaohua's generosity, everyone was happy and didn't hold back. Dui Qiming still chose 4 magic tools and put them into her storage bag. "And bring your flying swords over." After giving them some trivial things that Xiaohua didn't care about, Xiaohua finally said, "These flying swords still have the primordial spirits of sword cultivators. I'm afraid they can't be used. This Xiao will help you erase them." Okay. Dui Ling didn't understand these things. When he heard Xiaohua mention it, he was naturally the first to agree and took out the flying sword that had a faint plum blossom on it. Xiaohua took the flying sword and a green and red sword light flashed from his hand, wiping it on the flying sword. The sword light of the flying sword instantly dimmed, and even the faint plum blossom from before had disappeared. This Dui Ling saw the unsightly appearance of the flying sword and pouted. "Hee, don't be unsatisfied." Xiaohua smiled and stuffed the flying sword into his hand. "There's a sword cultivator's primordial spirit inside the flying sword. Be careful, he might take over your body. You keep that sword cultivator in your storage bag every day. Aren't you afraid?" Yes. Dui Ling came to his senses and became happy again. After Xiaohua erased all the primordial spirits of the flying swords, he instructed, "Senior brother Zhen, let's get on the ship. Let's go in the same direction as before." Yes. Zhen Minghui set up the flying boat. Everyone boarded the flying boat and flew in the direction they came from. Xiaohua still sat in a corner of the flowing cloud flying boat. The other disciples were a little far from him. They gathered at the side and took out their own flying swords, gesturing nonstop and showing off their own gazes. Xiaohua was very happy in his heart. He clapped his hands and the palm-sized withered leaf appeared in his hand. Then he took out a sword slip. This sword slip was taken from the swordsman's storage pouch. Xiaohua looked at it for a moment and frowned. This withered leaf was called a spirit armor, and the method to control it was mainly based on sword energy and primordial spirit. However, Xiaohua clearly felt that this item should be a soul item. Using sword energy to control it was probably the same as using the Dao Sex method to cultivate the soul technique. After thinking for a moment, Xiaohua put away the sword slip and released the soul strand. When the soul strand touched the withered leaf immediately emitted a faint green light and gradually became smaller. Great! Xiaohua was secretly happy. He put away the soul strand and the green light turned into the size of a mung bean. It flew into his transcendence eye, and then followed the soul strand to the side of the mysterious dark cloud. Cui Hongshan and the others naturally saw the green light, and saw it fly into Xiaohua's glabella. Their eyes flashed with surprise as they exchanged glances with each other. Then, they looked at Xiaohua's safe and sound appearance before turning their gazes outside the airship. It was as if they didn't notice anything. Xiaohua was really too mysterious. They didn't think much of it before, but the more they interacted with him, the more they didn't understand. They were all disciples of the Imperial Lightning School and Myriad Thunder Valley, but the difference between them wasn't just big. Cui Hongshan was even more certain now. Even if his master was helpless, no. Even if all the disciples of the Myriad Thunder Valley were to face off against the 30 or so swordsmen, they would have been completely wiped out. There was no way the situation would have been reversed like this. Xiaohua. He infiltrated my Myriad Thunder Valley. What is he planning? Cui Hongshan couldn't help but be puzzled. Xiaohua put away the spirit armor around the dark cloud. The green light was entangled by countless soul strands and immediately grew in size. It was a green armor that looked like a fishing net. Xiaohua thought for a moment. The soul strands slowly trembled and tried to transmit different kinds of fluctuations to the spirit armor. After less than an hour, the spirit armor suddenly emitted an extremely bright light. Lines appeared on the green armor, and these lines were formed by runes that were entangled with each other. These runes were similar to the green seal text. Countless runes rapidly circulated and gradually grew in size. The spirit armor flew toward the dark cloud under the guidance of the soul strands and firmly protected the dark cloud. The dark cloud's surface also seemed to be somewhat solid. Chapter 2305. Haha. As expected, Xiaohua was overjoyed when he saw the armor protecting his soul. He kept the soul strand and opened his eyes. We're almost there, Xiaohua said in his heart as he released his Buddhist awareness. After another cup of tea, Xiaohua instructed, "Senior brother Zhen, stop the flying boat." Okay. Zhen Minghui stopped the flying boat and listened to Xiaohua's instructions. Everyone, look over there. Xiaohua sighed and pointed to the right side of the flying boat. It was a valley between the mountains. Oh. Cui Hongshan and the others were puzzled. When they stood up and looked down, their faces were filled with shock. Especially Dui Ling, Zhenhua, and the other Qi refinement disciples, their eyes flashed with panic and anger. That's right, in the valley, on top of the pure white snow, there were dozens of Dao sect cultivators' corpses, staining the pure white snow with blood. These corpses were in a mess, too horrible to look at. In particular, there were several female cultivators, all naked. Their Taoist robes had long been torn into countless pieces. Senior sister Dui, take Ming Mao and Dui Ling, and bury the corpses of the female disciples. Xiaohua ordered with his eyes closed. Yes. Dui Qiming suppressed the grief in her heart and waved her hand, taking Ming Mao and Dui Ling with her. After a long while, the three female cultivators flew back with tears in their eyes. Their eyes were filled with anger. Sigh, this is the great battle of Dao cultivators. Anything can happen. Xiaohua sighed slightly. Previously, I only wanted to avoid these sword cultivators, but I forgot about their brutality. They fed their swords with their bodies. Although they were upright, they were also ruthless. Killing is the best way to deal with each other's enmity. Only now did everyone know why Xiaohua had his eyes on the 30 or so swordsmen who drew their swords and wanted to kill them all. It turned out that he had already seen the tragic situation here. Without waiting for Xiaohua's order, Cui Hongshan flicked his sleeves and said, "Su Qing, you and the others go and clean up the other corpses." Yes. Su Qing and the others gritted their teeth and flew out, gathering the remaining corpses and burying them. What about the tokens and other items of those disciples? When Su Qing and the others returned, Dui Qiming clapped his hands and took out the token that was scattered on the snow and casually thrown away by the sword cultivator. Leave it all to me. Cui Hongshan sighed and said, they should be the three teams from Cool Breeze Valley, Mo Sang Mountain and Thousand Leaf Ridge. I wonder if they have the same mission as us. It's also a merit for us to bring the tokens back to Sky Patrol City. Where are their storage pouches? Xiaohua asked in grief and indignation. Cui Hongshan shook his head. That's a different story. It belongs to whoever takes it. Xiaohua clapped his hands and took out a few more tokens. There were even 3 captain tokens. Cui Hongshan also dejectedly put them away. As the flying boat took off again, everyone was silent. Obviously, their previous joy was defeated by the cruelty of reality, and Xiaohua no longer pointed out the direction of the flying boat. Another few days passed. These few days were not easy. Just like the frequency of Xiaohua's reminders, they would encounter more or less sword cultivators every half a day. However, with Xiaohua, a cultivator who concealed his cultivation and still had the strength of an early-stage golden core cultivator, the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect was not in danger at all. Most of the time, Xiaohua did not even make a move and only let them fight on their own. Blood and hatred were often the driving force for cultivation advancement. In just a few days, the 9 people's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds, and even in terms of cooperation, they had become more perfect. Seeing this, Xiaohua could not help but sigh. It's not unreasonable for sword cultivators to start a war. After fighting for several years, not only will their swordsmanship improve greatly, but their realm will also definitely break through. Compared to experience, it's really effective. On this day, on the flying boat, Dui Ling, Bai Sugu, and Zhenhua had sword wounds on their arms that had not yet healed. They were asking Dui Qiming and Qiu Su about their doubts about cultivation when they heard Xiaohua, who had been silent all this time, say, "Senior brother Minghui, there's another strange enemy on the right in front. Moreover, it seems to be a fellow Taoist from the Tao sect. Stop in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. We'll fly over." Yes. Zhen Minghui did not hesitate to change the direction of the flying boat and fly over. Xiaohua closed his eyes again. After the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, Zhen Minghui stopped the flying boat as instructed. Xiaohua put away the flying boat, and everyone flew forward under Cui Hongshan's lead. "Quick!" Xiaohua urged. He changed his habit of always flying at the back and took the lead to fly forward. Everyone knew that the situation was urgent, and they all urged their magic power to follow behind Xiaohua. However, before they could fly too far, Xiaohua's figure had already flown far away, gradually disappearing from their sight. Seeing this, Cui Hongshan could not help but sigh in his heart. In his mind, he actually recalled the helpless exhortation from earlier on Sky Thunder Peak. This, who's protecting who? I. But, quick! Cui Hongshan waved his hand and said, "There must be sword cultivators fighting fiercely with our Tao sect disciples in front. We can't fall behind." However, when Cui Hongshan rushed to the scene, Xiaohua was not in their field of vision. Even when Cui Hongshan released his divine sense, he could not find any trace of Xiaohua. The scene was extremely dangerous. There were 10 disciples, as many as the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect, but they were wearing the Tai Ching sect's uniform. They were surrounded by more than 10 strange swordsmen. These swordsmen were divided into 2 groups. One group was abnormally tall, and their bodies emitted a strange brilliance. That brilliance was linked to the magic tools they held in midair. The other group only had 3 swordsmen. These 3 swordsmen were even more strange. They had their backs to Cui Hongshan and the others, so Cui Hongshan and the others could not see their faces clearly. However, their flight was very strange. When they flew, their hands were spread open like wings. They did not use magic tools or magic treasures, and only charged at the Tai Ching sect disciples. Every time they flew, the Tai Ching sect disciples' magic tools would be knocked away, forcing them to retreat quickly. "Fellow Taoist from the Imperial Thunder Sect, come and help me." Before Cui Hongshan could take a closer look, a Tai Ching sect disciple at the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment said happily, "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. We'll come over right now." Cui Hongshan responded and quickly analyzed the situation. He then directed Zhen Minghui, Dui Qiming, and the others to fly to different Tai Ching sect disciples to help. "Ga!" A scream that caused the blood and qi of all the cultivators present to surge rang out. The strange swordsmen with their backs to Cui Hongshan, and the others turned around. Although Cui Hongshan and the others were prepared, their hearts still trembled, and they were greatly shocked. Chapter 2306. The bodies of these 3 swordsmen were extremely thin and shriveled. Moreover, their skeleton-like faces were extremely prominent. Their mouths and noses were pointed forward, like the beaks of birds. Their eyes were withered and yellow, and their gazes were sharp and ferocious when they looked back. Bird Cultivator. Cui Hongshan and the others immediately understood that this was the Bird Cultivator. They had been warned to be careful of several times in the encampment of the Imperial Thunder Sect in Sky Patrol City. Whoosh! The Bird Cultivator who was attacking the early-stage Foundation Establishment Cultivator clapped his hands. Cui Hongshan saw that his hands under his Taoist robe were extremely thin and long, and they actually emitted a sharp cold light. Faintly, some yellow feathers were emitted from his Taoist robe. As the Bird Cultivator waved his hands, a powerful wave of air surged out. The Bird Cultivator's body flew out in a strange manner, drawing an arc in the air as he charged into Cui Hongshan's defensive range. Go! Cui Hongshan had already taken out his Thunder Pearl. Following the activation of Cui Hongshan's Dharma power, he attacked in front of the Bird Cultivator. However, how could the Thunder Pearl compare to the Bird Cultivator's agility? When one of the Thunder Pearls flew in front of the Bird Cultivator, the Bird Cultivator only waved his left hand slightly. His entire body was like a bat flying sideways. The Thunder Pearl slid down the Bird Cultivator's back, and the Bird Cultivator's hand was already in front of Cui Hongshan's forehead. Hiss! This was the second time Cui Hongshan had seen such fast flying. He was shocked and at the same time, he sucked in a breath of cold air. All the hair on his body stood on end. He waved his hands naturally, and almost reflexively he cast a defensive spell. However, how could such a hurried spell block the Bird Cultivator's fierce attack? Before the spiritual chi of heaven and earth could condense, it was shattered by the Bird Cultivator. Cui Hongshan could almost hear the sound of the wind piercing the air between the Bird Cultivator's claws. The sharp cold light was reflected in Cui Hongshan's eyes. The situation was too urgent. Naturally, the early-stage Foundation Establishment Cultivator, who was originally entangled by the Bird Cultivator, also hurriedly activated the green ring-shaped magic weapon to smash the Bird Cultivator's back. However, it was clear that the Bird Cultivator didn't care about the green hoop at all. He didn't defend himself at all, and Cui Hongshan, who was willing to be injured in order to help, died under his claws. Something strange happened. Just as Cui Hongshan was about to hurriedly throw out the other 2 Thunder Pearls, the Bird Cultivator suddenly screamed. His Taoist robe straightened, as if the feathers under his Taoist robe were standing up. His 2 sharp claws didn't care about hurting Cui Hongshan. Instead, he turned around to protect his head. His orange eyes flashed with panic. Fight! When Cui Hongshan saw this, the other 2 lightning beads flew out and took the opportunity to collide with each other. A flash of lightning instantly appeared, and the thumb-sized lightning struck the Beast Cultivator. Crackle! Blue lightning instantly enveloped the Bird Cultivator. At the same time, the Tai Ching sect Cultivator's green ring also struck down. Pooh! A dull sound rang out, and an earthy yellow light appeared on the Bird Cultivator's back. The Bird Cultivator was instantly knocked down by several dozen feet. However, a yellow light flashed across the Bird Cultivator's face. He spread his wings and was about to fly again. This Bird Cultivator is too powerful, right? Cui Hongshan was very surprised. He was confident that he wouldn't be able to take a hit from the green ring, let alone the lightning from the Thunder Pearl. Fight! At this moment, Chiu Su, who was also in the early stage of Foundation establishment, finally threw out his own magic tool, Thunder Net. However, the timing of Chiu Su's Thunder Net was just right. It landed on the Bird Cultivator's body when he spread his wings, trapping the Bird Cultivator in an instant. Good! The Tai Ching sect Cultivator almost clapped his hands and hurriedly circulated all the magic power in his body. The green ring flashed with an intense green light and suddenly enlarged, producing an extremely strong confining force that enveloped the Bird Cultivator. Then it trapped the Bird Cultivator from top to bottom. Following that, it rapidly shrank, tightly and firmly trapped the Bird Cultivator. Dui Ling, Cui Hongshan was overjoyed when he saw this. He hurriedly called out to Dui Ling, who had a thunder seal in her hand, wanting her to use her thunder seal to attack. However, Dui Ling was a few dozen feet away, urging her Thunder Seal to attack the magic tool with the wavering blue light. How could she have the time to help them? Watch this, Xiao. Right at this moment, Xiao Hua's voice resounded. Cui Hongshan turned around and saw Xiao Hua leisurely flying over from the direction they came from. The cloud suppression seal, which hadn't appeared for a long time, was already in the air. Ah, Xiao Hua? The Tai Ching sect cultivator saw this and his face showed a pleasantly surprised expression. He even called out Xiao Hua's name. He fellow Taoist, we meet again. Xiao Hua said with a smile. This Tai Ching sect cultivator was none other than He Feng Yuan, who was forced to foundation establishment by Xiao Hua during the Feather Immortal Assembly. Junior brother Xiao, quickly come and help me. Seeing that Xiao Hua's cloud suppression seal was actually 10 feet in size and overflowing with an earthen yellow brilliance, as well as the heaven and earth spiritual energy that had formed a jade necklace, He Feng Yuan shouted in joy. Go. Xiao Hua chanted an incantation and pointed his finger. The cloud-suppressing seal rumbled with a deafening sound as it smashed towards the bird cultivator. The cloud suppression seal flew dozens of feet above the bird cultivator's head, and that powerful sealing force trapped the bird cultivator. The bird cultivator was already unable to break free from the green rings and lightning net, and now he couldn't move at all. His entire body was flattened as if it was flat. Boom! The cloud suppression seal landed and smashed the bird cultivator into the ground without any suspense. When the cloud suppression seal was pulled out again, 2 lumps of mangled flesh and blood could be seen on the sunken ground. On top of it was a small lump of colorful feathers. It was the corpse of a spirit bird, and below it was an ordinary human corpse. Great! He Feng Yuan said in joy. To think that junior brother Zhao's treasure would have such power now, I am truly envious. Fellow Taoist you must be joking. Xiao Hua pointed his finger, and the cloud suppression seal flew into the air and shrunk slightly, protecting him. He smiled. This treasure's power is not bad, but its speed is too slow. If this bird cultivator wasn't trapped by fellow Taoist I wouldn't have been able to kill him with the cloud suppression seal. With every advantage, there is always a disadvantage. Why is junior brother Xiao so obsessed with perfection? He Feng Yuan's divine sense swept over the other disciples, and he knew that with the support of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples, he had completely reversed the previous situation, so he stopped and said to Xiao Hua with a smile. Moreover, this magic treasure seems to have been repaired by junior brother Xiao, and its power is even more powerful. Is there anything junior brother Xiao is not satisfied with? Saying this, He Feng Yuan seemed to have thought of something and blinked. However, according to what I know, Changbai sect seems to have an even more famous overturned sea seal than this cloud suppression seal. Its power is even greater, and its flying speed is even faster. It fits junior brother Zhao's expectations. Oh, overturned sea seal? Xiao Hua shook his head. I don't seem to have heard of it. Yes, it has been a long time since I last saw it. I heard it was lost, but Changbai sect doesn't admit it. However, we are all sects of Ming country. How can we not know? Even I know. How can others not know? Changbai sect is only deceiving themselves. He Feng Yuan explained, but soon after he felt that it was inappropriate and hurriedly said, Oh junior brother Xiao, I did not mean to mock you, you should know. Ha. No worries. Xiao Hua waved his hand. Senior brother you should quickly look at the other disciples. The current situation is not that easy to deal with. Yes, I understand. He Feng Yuan cupped his fists. Junior brother Xiao, please lend me a hand. This artifact cultivator and bird cultivator are quite strange. They are different from the records in the sect. If not for the cloud suppression seal and lightning seal, these treasures, it would not be easy to kill them. I understand. Xiao Hua glanced at Cui Hongshan, who had already left him and joined another group, and nodded. Dui Chi Meng was facing an artifact cultivator. That artifact cultivator's body was emitting an orange light, and was connected to a huge fireball in the air. That fireball's brilliance was extremely dazzling, and outside of the brilliance, there was a foot-long flame burning fiercely. This artifact cultivator's original opponent was a Tai Ching sect disciple who was wielding a sharp hook artifact. That sharp hook was an extremely fierce artifact, but under the attack of the fire bead, There was a faint red flame burning on it, and the hook was actually somewhat distorted. Even that Tai Ching sect disciple felt an indescribable anxiety in his heart. Dui Chi Meng took out the lightning bottle, and from the bottle's mouth, purple lightning poured down like rain, instantly suppressing the destruction of the fire bead. Not only was the flame restrained by the orange brilliance, but the light around the artifact cultivator's body also dimmed by more than 40%. The artifact cultivator's entire body was connected to the artifact. The fire bead artifact cultivator's eyes were different from the bird cultivator's. They were scarlet red like a pillar of fire in the air, and the cold laughter coming from his mouth also had the feeling of friction between artifacts. As the fire pearl cultivator sneered, a pillar of fire appeared from his body. With a wung sound, the pillar of fire rushed toward the fire pearl in the air. Woo-woo. The fire bead made a woo-woo sound inside the pillar of fire, and its color gradually changed from orange to green. What made Dui Chi Meng and the Tai Ching sect disciple feel even more uneasy was that along with the change in color, the shape of the fire bead also changed. It actually began to gradually expand, and then it became illusory. Attack! Dui Chi Meng didn't dare to hesitate any longer, and once again used her magic power. A layer of lightning fell down and covered the fire bead. Similarly, the Tai Ching sect disciple used his magic power, and the sharp hook drew a snow-white light in the air, and directly fell into the pillar of fire. Gg, an ear-piercing cry came from the fire bead, and within the lightning, the pillar of fire evolved into a fire bird. It flapped its wings extremely vividly, and dozens of fire arrows shot out from the fire bird's wings, riddling the pillar of lightning with thousands of holes. Moreover, at the same time the fire bird flapped its wings, its green beak rapidly pecked at the hook. Ah! With a scream, the Tai Ching sect disciple's face was already pale. He formed a hand seal, and the hook flew back from the fire bird's beak, and a pinky-sized hole appeared on the hook. Chapter 2307. Seeing that the equipment cultivator was so powerful, Dui Chi Meng's heart trembled. She once again circulated her magic power, but this time she changed her hand seal. Absorb! Dui Chi Meng shouted, and another lightning net was thrown down. The lightning net flowed within, and the lightning bottle produced a strong suction force. The flames around the fire bird were sucked up and slowly entered the bottle. The fire pearl equipment cultivator was slightly stunned. At this time, the fire pillars around him were gradually extinguished, leaving only an orange flame connected to the fire bird. The suction force of the lightning bottle was quite strong, and the fire between the equipment cultivator and the fire bird was showing signs of being stirred up. The fire pearl equipment cultivator roared again, and a whirlwind appeared around him, as if he was circulating the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. At this time, 4 lightning pearls fell from the sky, landing in front of and behind him. They were Cui Hongshan's 4 lightning pearls. The 4 lightning pearls flew in front of and behind the equipment cultivator, rapidly colliding with each other. 2 streaks of lightning appeared at the equipment cultivator's face and the back of his head at the same time. The fire pearl equipment cultivator clearly did not care. He raised a hand that was flickering with flames, blocking his face. As for the lightning behind his head, he simply ignored it. Gotcha! The lightning in front of his face was blocked by the equipment cultivator. However, the equipment cultivator had clearly underestimated the lightning from the lightning pearls. This lightning was much stronger than the lightning from Dui Chi Meng's lightning bottle. This lightning actually passed through the gap between the equipment cultivator's fingers and hit the front of his face. Just this lightning alone was naturally only able to injure one of the equipment cultivator's hands. It was extremely difficult for it to injure his vitals. However, at this time, the lightning behind the equipment cultivator's head also struck. Between these 2 lightning bolts, a faint purple lightning bolt suddenly appeared. This lightning was extremely thin, almost as thin as a strand of hair. However, its power was extremely strong, and it directly pierced through the equipment cultivator's head. A crack that was invisible to the naked eye appeared between the weapon cultivator's eyebrows. Gg, at this time, the fire bird also let out a miserable cry, and a similar crack appeared on its forehead. Great! Dui Chi Meng was delighted and took the opportunity to circulate her magic power, increasing the suction force by 30%. The Firebird finally couldn't hold on any longer. With a wail, it fell into the lightning bottle. Dui Qiming didn't hesitate to summon the lightning bottle back to her when she saw the Firebird fall into the bottle. At this moment, the lightning bottle suddenly expanded, and some red light appeared. Inside the thunder bottle's mouth, a brilliant flame was born. It was precisely the brilliance of the connection between the Firebird and the tool Cultivator. The thunder bottle actually swayed, and was about to fly in the direction of the beast Cultivator. Fight! Cui Hongshan scolded again, and the 4 lightning pearls drew 4 strange arcs in the air, and collided with each other again. 2 bolts of lightning were produced once again. Simultaneously, one from the front and one from the back, they struck towards the weapon Cultivator. At this moment, the flames on his body had already been extinguished, revealing his normal body. Roar! The weapon Cultivator panicked. How would he dare to let the lightning strike him again? He flew towards Dui Qiming and spat out another stream of Samadhi True Fire Withdraw. Seeing this, Dui Qiming used her flying technique to avoid the weapon Cultivator. At the same time, she used all her strength to activate her magic power. She clapped her hands, completely ignoring the changes in the lightning bottle. She wanted to snatch the lightning bottle from the weapon Cultivator and keep it in her storage bag. The lightning pearls were extremely fast. When they collided, lightning flashed. The weapon Cultivator was helpless. He could only turn his head and spit out his Samadhi True Fire at one of the bolts of lightning, drowning it. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Dui Qiming suddenly activated her quintessential essence. The lightning bottle disappeared from her hand and was kept in her storage bag. She looked at the weapon Cultivator with the fire pearls. As the Firebird was kept, the brilliance on his body dimmed, and his eyes were filled with panic. Kachacha! The lightning behind the equipment Cultivator struck him. Ah! The weapon Cultivator screamed and fell. A thumb-sized wound appeared on his back. Great! Seeing this, Cui Hongshan was overjoyed. He knew that after the weapon Cultivator's artifact was taken away, his defense would be greatly reduced. Although his lightning pearls couldn't cause a fist-sized wound, it was still effective. Immediately after, he activated the lightning pearls. That Tai Ching sect disciple could naturally see this. He endured the damage to his artifact and also activated his hook to help Cui Hongshan. Damn it, this Cui Hongshan actually knows the principle of lightning splitting yin and yang. Under the protection of the cloud suppressing seal, Xiaohua was able to clearly see what Cui Hongshan was doing. Inside his phoenix celestial body, the male and female lightning beast's inner cores were precisely relying on the yin and yang attributes of the 2 inner cores to produce lightning, and use the lightning attracting technique. Naturally, he was very sensitive to Cui Hongshan's 2 lightning bolts just now. This guy's 2 lightning beast's inner cores are still inside this young master's space. He probably doesn't know, right? However, seeing him like this young master is still unhappy. Let's talk about it when there's a chance in the future. Eldest senior brother used the lightning beast cores to give birth to Xiang Zhili. Who will this guy and Dui Qiming give birth to? Right now it's a sword battle. Don't play any tricks. Xiaohua's gaze was pensive. He looked at Cui Hongshan and then at Dui Qiming. It was quite thought-provoking. There was no need to talk about the remaining battle groups. With the assistance of the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples, especially with Xiaohua's cloud-suppressing seal, the fate of these tool and beast cultivators had already been decided. In just an hour, 6 tool cultivators and 3 beast cultivators were killed by the combined forces of Tai Ching Sect and Imperial Thunder Sect disciples. Tai Ching Sect was a famous sect in the country of Meng. Its status was higher than Imperial Thunder Sect in the country of Xi. However, at this time, the disciples of the 2 sects had gone through trials and tribulations together. Their bodies had scars left behind by their enemies, and their hands were also stained with the blood of their enemies. Not to mention that the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples had come to save Tai Ching Sect disciples. Moreover, the leader of this Tai Ching Sect team was an old friend of an initial stage foundation establishment disciple from Imperial Thunder Sect. Seeing his remaining 7 disciples take out Tai Ching Sect's medicinal pills and affectionately hand them to the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples, Fang Yuan sighed and flew to Cui Hongshan. He bowed and said, I Tai Ching Sex Fang Yuan thanks fellow Taoist for saving my life. I am Xiao Hua's old acquaintance. I have yet to ask for fellow Taoist's name. After Fang Yuan escaped danger, he chatted with Xiao Hua for a while. However, at that time, Cui Hongshan had already gone to assist Dui Qi Meng, and Xiao Hua avoided talking about Cui Hongshan's matters. Even now, Fang Yuan still didn't know Cui Hongshan's name. Although Cui Hongshan was somewhat dissatisfied, Xiao Hua's strength was obvious. If it weren't for Xiao Hua, honestly speaking, he might not have dared to accept the challenge. Now that he heard Fang Yuan's courteous bow and the other party was at the peak of initial stage foundation establishment, how could he dare to slight him? He hurriedly returned the greeting and said, I Cui Hongshan, am a disciple of Myriad Thunder Valley with Xiao Hua. I am not talented, but I am the leader of my Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. This is also a coincidence. I just happened to pass by this place. It seems we are fated to meet fellow Taoist he. Chapter 2308. Indeed. Fang Yuan glanced at Xiao Hua and smiled. Back then, I met Dao friend Xiao Hua at the Feather Immortal Assembly. To think that in the Sword Path battle in Patrol Heaven City, I was saved by Lightning Imperial Sect's disciple, and this leader is even Dao friend Zhao's junior brother, its senior brother. Cui Hongshan reminded in a low voice. Senior brother? Oh. Fang Yuan was slightly dazed as he glanced at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua acted as if he did not hear him at all. He was slightly surprised. He clearly felt that Xiao Hua's magic power surpassed Cui Hongshan's. Moreover, if Cui Hongshan was Xiao Hua's senior brother, Xiao Hua would have introduced him. Since Xiao Hua did not introduce him, he naturally thought Cui Hongshan was Xiao Hua's junior brother. However, Fang Yuan only thought for a moment before smiling. In short, I am really fated to meet Imperial Thunder Sect. Unfortunately, I still came too late. Cui Hongshan saw several Tai Ching Sect disciples cleaning up the corpses on the ground and knew they were Tai Ching Sect's disciples who died, so he comforted them. Sigh, if you did not come, my Tai Ching Sect would have been completely wiped out. Fang Yuan smiled bitterly before looking into the distance and frowning. Actually, if not for that strange maze cultivator, even if you came to help, I'm afraid. Oh, why do you say that? Zhen Minghui and the others took the pills, and also came forward to greet Fang Yuan. After Cui Hongshan finished with them, Zhen Minghui asked curiously. Of course, when he asked, he inadvertently glanced at Xiao Hua. It's quite strange. Fang Yuan was still puzzled. Just before Cui and the rest arrived, about 15 minutes later, a cultivator who was bewitched came. Can you look at the corpses of those two artifact cultivators? Is there a sword mark on their foreheads? Saying so, Fang Yuan pointed in the distance. There were two corpses that were a head taller than the two artifact cultivators that Cui Hongshan and the others dealt with. Zhen Minghui's divine sense swept over them, and his eyes flashed with shock as he nodded. That's right. The skin and bones of these artifact cultivators are extremely hard. Even magic treasures cannot penetrate them. Sword marks? Could it be the work of a sword cultivator? Sword cultivator? How is that possible? Fang Yuan laughed. If a sword cultivator appeared here, how could we still be alive? It was impossible for a sword cultivator to kill a weapon cultivator. This is probably the work of a senior from the Changbai sect, right? Senior what is going on? Please explain clearly. Dui Ling was greatly surprised and hurriedly asked. These two artifact cultivators are the most powerful of the dozen or so, Fang Yuan said with lingering fear on his face. When my clavicle hit them, it was no different from hitting a magic treasure. It could not injure them at all. And their magical weapons are even more powerful. They should have the attack power of the peak of the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. We just fought with them, and 3 of our disciples were killed by these 2 weapon cultivators. I don't dare to let them fight with the other disciples, so I can only face them myself. Just as I was about to take out my clavicle, the artifact cultivator's magic treasure sent my clavicle flying. It looked like I was about to die at the hands of that artifact cultivator. A green and red sword light appeared in front of the artifact cultivator's eyes. I saw it very clearly. That weapon cultivator only lasted for 2 rounds, and was not a match for that fast and sharp flying sword at all. In the 3rd round, the flying sword pierced through the space between his eyebrows and he fell to the ground. Only now did that senior Miho's figure appear 100 feet away. He Feng Yuan said with envy. Next, that green and red flying sword did not stop at all. It flew towards another extremely powerful artifact cultivator. That artifact cultivator was even more powerful than before. His entire body was covered in green light, and was as hard as his magic treasure. Moreover, this artifact cultivator's flying speed was also extremely fast. I'm afraid it was even faster than Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. Either way, his magic tool couldn't even touch a single hair on his body. But no matter how powerful this artifact cultivator was, he was no match for the Changbai Sect senior. In just 5 rounds, really just 5 to 6 rounds, that green and red flying sword strangely pierced through the back of the artifact cultivator's head. And that artifact cultivator's magic treasure did not even touch that senior's. But that senior is also strange. He only killed these 2 artifact cultivators and did not wait for my thanks. He did not even care about our lives and flew away in another direction. He Feng Yuan laughed. I was still puzzled earlier, but now I know. That senior must have seen Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples, and knew that we could kill the artifact cultivator and beast cultivator. Thus, he killed the leader, and left the rest of the swordsmen for us. Green and red flying sword? Cui Hongshan and the others were shocked as they thought to themselves. Isn't it a golden brilliance? What? Have you seen this Changbai Sect senior before? He Feng Yuan observed their expressions and asked curiously. No, we don't have that fortune. How could we see this Changbai Sect senior? Cui Hongshan emphasized the words Changbai Sect. That's true. If any senior doesn't want us to know his identity, we naturally won't know. He Feng Yuan nodded and bowed towards another direction. Junior He Feng Yuan, senior came in a hurry and did not thank me. Now junior thanks senior for saving our lives. Cui Hongshan and the rest had strange expressions as they looked at He Feng Yuan's bow. They could not understand Xiaohua at all. After He Feng Yuan finished bowing, Tai Ching Sect's disciples also cleaned up the corpses of the dead disciples, and took out the artifact cultivator and beast cultivator's storage bags. Dao friend Cui, you came to help us, this storage bag should be taken by you, right? He Feng Yuan hesitated for a moment before waving his hand generously. Cui Hongshan smiled and waved his hand. Even though we came to help, Tai Ching Sect's Dao friend also contributed greatly and lost many of our fellow disciples. How can we take it? Let's split it evenly? Saying so, Cui Hongshan looked around and smiled. Why are there only 7 or 8 storage bags? 2 seem to be missing? Oh, those 2 storage bags were taken by Changbai Sect seniors. He Feng Yuan smiled. If they don't take it, I will feel even more uneasy. Hee, that's good. Cui Hongshan also smiled. Splitting it like this will make us feel at ease. Next, Tai Ching Sect's disciples divided the items in the storage bags evenly and gave them to Zhen Minghui, who gave them to everyone else. After the items were distributed, Cui Hongshan cupped his fists. Dao friend we will have to part ways. I will take my leave. He Feng Yuan also cupped his fists and looked at Xiaohua saying, after this mission is completed, I will go to Imperial Thunder Sect's station to find you and junior brother Xiao. Alright. Tai Ching Sect's disciples and Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples cupped their fists and smiled, flying up at the same time. However, after flying for a few meters, they were surprised. The 2 groups were flying in the same direction? Cui Hongshan looked at He Feng Yuan. The 2 had bitter smiles on their faces. After thinking for a while, Cui Hongshan smiled. Dao friend are you going to Golden Spring Mountain? Ah yes. He Feng Yuan also laughed loudly. This is too much of a coincidence. Let's go together. The disciples of the 2 sects were also happy. They flew up in their respective groups. He Feng Yuan chatted with Cui Hongshan for a while in front. When he saw Xiaohua flying leisurely at the back, he stopped and waited for Xiaohua to come closer. Junior brother Xiao. Long time no see, your cultivation is also out of my expectations. He Feng Yuan smiled. I knew that junior brother Xiao would be able to reach foundation establishment smoothly. Your cultivation far surpasses mine. Hee, it's nothing. Xiao Hua smiled. As long as I cultivate diligently, heaven will take care of me. Yes, yes. He Fong Yuan smiled apologetically. I am really lucky. Every time I meet junior brother Xiao, good things happen. Last time. Hee, senior brother he. I have already said it at Feather Immortal Assembly. It was all your own hard work. Xiao Hua naturally knew what He Fong Yuan wanted to say. He quickly stopped him. Yes, yes. He Fong Yuan nodded repeatedly, but after thinking for a while, hesitation appeared on his face. He transmitted. Junior brother Xiao, actually, I have something to tell you. Speak. Xiao Hua saw his transmission and knew it was not a small matter. He nodded. This matter concerns junior brother and my sect. If I did not participate in this sword path battle, I might not be able to explain it to junior brother Xiao. But since I met junior brother Xiao, and junior brother Xiao helped me again, I feel that I should explain it to junior brother Xiao. Ah, what is it? Is it about Feather Immortal Assembly? Xiao Hua's heart shook. He raised his eyebrows and asked. That's right. He Fong Yuan nodded. He looked at the Tai Ching sect disciples in front of him and transmitted. Junior brother Xiao should know that Feather Immortal Assembly's illusion formation can record images, the situation of my foundation establishment inside the illusion formation. The sect knows about it. Moreover, the sect master even summoned me and asked me in detail. Is that so? Xiao Hua frowned. He did not deny it. Moreover, I heard. The sect master even found a few disciples with great strength and tried. But they did not succeed. He Fong Yuan could not speak too directly. He hinted vaguely. Thank you. Xiao Hua nodded. This matter is strange. It has nothing to do with me. But it seems that some disciples also established foundation when they fought junior brother Xiao, right? He Fong Yuan thought for a while and said. Yes. Xiao Hua had a bitter smile on his face. He shrugged. Actually, I was already at the peak of Qi refinement stage 12. Isn't it normal for there to be a few foundation establishment disciples? At that time, my cultivation level was low. I could only bully others with great strength. Your sect master had to be so far-fetched. I had no choice. However, it has been so long, I did not encounter anything. I am sure your sect master has thought it through, right? Of course, this Xiao still has to thank senior martial brother he. Chapter 2309. Xiao Hua said it was fine, but his heart was thumping as he became vigilant. Although this wasn't a special secret of his, if it were to fall into the eyes of someone with ulterior motives, especially the masters of sects like the Tai Ching sect, it would definitely be more dangerous than secrets like the Buddhist sect's cultivation level and the dragonization art. No need to thank me. He Fong Yuan cupped his fists. I hope that by going to Jin Quan Mountain with junior brother Xiao, I will be able to return safely. I think so. Xiao Hua thought inwardly and answered casually. These weapon cultivators and sword cultivators are only SO. Senior brother He's luck is so good, of course you will be fine. Sai, don't talk about weapon cultivators and beast cultivators. Hearing this, He Fong Yuan smiled bitterly. Before coming to patrol Heaven City, I searched the sect's records to study the weakness of weapon cultivators, sword cultivators, and beast cultivators. However, I did not find the weakness. Instead, I found that sword cultivators are better, but weapon cultivators and beast cultivators are different from the records in the sect. Oh, what's the difference? Xiao Hua was surprised. He did not have time to look at Imperial Thunder Sect's records, so he did not know what He Fong Yuan was talking about. Junior brother Xiao, you didn't notice? He Fong Yuan looked at Xiao Hua. That beast cultivator is strange. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and shrugged. I smashed it to death. I really did not notice. Junior brother Xiao, you really have nothing to worry about. He Fong Yuan was speechless. Didn't you see that beast cultivators actually refine spirit beasts into their bodies? Is that so? What's so strange about it? Isn't that how beast cultivators do it? Xiao Hua asked. The ignorant are fearless. He Fong Yuan sighed and thought for a while before asking. Do you know Shi Country's spirit husbandry sect? I do. Xiao Hua nodded. They rear spirit beasts and use them for battle. Of course I know. That's good. He Fong Yuan nodded. Actually, in Tai Ching sect's records, beast cultivators are similar to spirit husbandry sect, but beast cultivators are stronger and their spirit beasts are of higher grade. Moreover, beast cultivators are the same as sword cultivators. They can place their primordial spirits in spiritual beasts and control them more flexibly. Ah? Only now did Xiaohua understand He Feng Yuan's words and shouted in shock. Isn't that so? The beast cultivators I saw today had the bodies of humans, but their heads were the heads of spirit beasts. Exactly. He Feng Yuan nodded solemnly. Beast cultivators can actually refine spirit beasts into their bodies. This is a symbiosis with spirit beasts. Not only do they have the strength of cultivators, they also have the innate abilities of spirit beasts. This is something that our Dao sect cultivators cannot compare to. That tool cultivator, is he all right? Xiaohua probed. Not necessarily. He Feng Yuan shook his head again. Weapon cultivators are the same as sword cultivators. They have the cultivation path of man and sword as one. But that's only possible if you reach the transformation stage, which is the same as my Dao sect's nascent soul stage cultivators. Those weapon cultivators just now were obviously only at the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage, but they were actually able to connect their bodies with magic treasures. They were only one step away from transforming into a weapon. This is simply inconceivable. And what I don't understand the most is that they seem to have a problem with their brains. What do you mean? Xiaohua asked again. Let's not talk about that Changbai sect senior. He escaped after killing 2 weapon cultivators. It is normal that these weapon cultivators and beast cultivators did not escape. He Feng Yuan explained again. But when Dao Friend Xiao and the other Imperial Thunder sect disciples came, they were clearly not our match and should have escaped. But they simply did not run. They stubbornly defended until we killed them one by one. Don't you think this is strange? That is true. Xiaohua really did not think so much. Only when He Feng Yuan mentioned it did he realize that these were indeed some inexplicable details. Maybe they have a mission? They don't dare to leave? Xiaohua said softly. What mission can there be in such a remote place? He Feng Yuan shook his head. Even if there is a mission, they should escape first. Maybe they want to intercept us? Xiaohua said casually. That is impossible? He Feng Yuan smiled. When we teleported out of Patrol Heaven City, we were very secretive and quickly flew towards Quanjin Mountain. Even if our 2 teams have the same mission, we do not know each other. How could they know? Senior brother, his words make sense. Xiaohua nodded and looked ahead. We should tell Dao Friend Chui about this. You are the leaders of the 2 teams after all. Dao Friend Chui? He Feng Yuan was surprised. You don't call him senior brother? This is my Myriad Thunder Valley's family matter. Dao Friend, he should not interfere. Xiaohua waved his hand. All right. He Feng Yuan smiled. No matter what, I will always side with junior brother Xiao. Don't worry about this. Just based on what Dao Friend he said earlier, I will remember this favor. Xiaohua smiled and nodded, sending He Feng Yuan off with his gaze. This is troublesome. Although Xiaohua did not seem to care, he was muttering in his heart. How could he not care about the concern of Tai Ching sect's master? That was a sect that was even more powerful than the Imperial Thunder sect. It was estimated that because the Tai Ching sect was in Meng country, and the Imperial Thunder sect was in Shi country, and Xiaohua had been appearing and disappearing unpredictably all these years, the disciples of the Tai Ching sect didn't receive any news about Xiaohua, so they didn't directly look for him. It was hard to say who would win in this sword path battle. Sai, keep a low profile. Xiaohua was gloomy. I just want to cultivate peacefully. I already gave the credit to some Changbai sect senior. How can I retreat? However, He Feng Yuan's words are really strange. If the artifact cultivator and beast cultivator did not have some mission, then they might have been affected by the artifact or spirit beast, losing the vigilance and thinking that cultivators should have. Not to mention Xiaohua's speculation about whether the artifact cultivator and beast cultivator had some mission. Far away in the west of Shi country, at the border with Huan country, an emerald green sword light was flying through the sky in the biting cold wind. On that sword light was a person wearing a long green robe. This swordsman's hair was white, his cheekbones were bulging, and there were no wrinkles on his pale yellow face. As the sword light flickered, the swordsman's body would sway slightly. That sword intent pierced into the air, piercing through the cold wind. Not to mention the snowflakes that were faintly floating in the air, they could not even get close to him. As the swordsman's body swayed, the sword light would transform from time to time, and a green sword would appear on that sword light. This swordsman was actually an illusory sword cultivator. Just as the illusory swordsman flew past a towering cliff, the sword intent cut through a baby fist-sized icicle on the cliff. That icicle fell down the cliff, and no sound could be heard for a long time. From the front of the swordsman, a fiery red brilliance quickly chased after him. Whose flying sword book is it? That swordsman frowned slightly, his body stopping in the air. That green sword phantom immediately withdrew into his body, and with a wave of his hand, a finger-long flying sword landed in his hand. When the swordsman finished reading the contents of the flying sword, his expression changed greatly, and he shouted with a stern voice, "Idiot! You ruined my plan. 100 deaths are not worth regretting." As he spoke, sword light appeared in his hand, and that flying sword was actually torn apart by the sword light in the swordsman's hand. Like a piece of white paper, it turned into fragments and fell from the sky. This makes this sword. The swordsman gritted his teeth and hesitated, as if he wanted to turn back. However, the swordsman stood in the air for a long time, and in the end, he flew up again and flew forward. But this time there was no sword light like before, only a green figure. The swordsman flew for more than half a day and arrived in front of a towering ice mountain. The ice mountain was extremely high, piercing straight into the gloomy sky, as if it was going to pierce the sky. This ice mountain was extremely wide, stretching for more than 10 miles. The swordsman flew to the ice mountain, and did not stop. Instead, he flew around the ice mountain, and in the time it took to eat a meal, a crack that was several feet wide appeared in the ice. The swordsman hesitated for a moment, and then rushed into the crack. The crack was between the ice mountain, and a huge whirlwind was generated from the crack, as if it could blow the swordsman away in an instant. However, the sword light around the swordsman's body flashed, and a green treasure sword appeared. Wung wung, a burst of sound was heard, and the sword light slashed down, splitting the whirlwind. In an instant, there was a moment of silence. And in this moment of silence, the sword light flashed, and the swordsman rushed into the crack. Out of the crack, the swordsman's eyes lit up, and a huge lake appeared in front of him. The surface of the lake was extremely large and emerald green. Icy mountains surrounded the surface of the huge lake, blocking the surrounding cold wind. Moreover, several pale white rays of sunlight shot out from the dark clouds in the sky, like huge light swords, piercing into the lake in the valley. Under the sunlight, the lake not only became more green, but there was not even the slightest sound of wind. There were no ripples on the surface of the lake, and it was really like a huge gem. The swordsman was not shocked by the strange scene in front of him, as if he was already used to it. He flew past a corner of Lake Chui, and landed on one of the protrusions on the stone wall, and stood there quietly. On the left side of the stone wall he was standing on, not only were there rare spirit grasses growing everywhere, even under the stone wall. Near Lake Chui, there were spirit grasses that were the size of a fist and looked like lotus flowers that were full of vitality. The lotus-like spirit fruits emitted a delicate fragrance, and even if the swordsman stood high up, he could still faintly smell it. However, the swordsman was distracted, and did not pay attention to it. Looking at the surroundings of Lake Chui, on the stone wall, there were dozens of protrusions. And at this time, on these protrusions, there were many different swordsmen. Among these swordsmen, most of them were similar to the swordsman who just came. They stood there quietly, with their eyes slightly closed, and their entire bodies seemed to be in a trance. Each one of them was like an unsheathed sword, and the shape of the sword was faintly discernible. These swordsmen were actually at the illusory sword realm. Chapter 23:10. As for the remaining cultivators, they were naturally beast cultivators and weapon cultivators. Not to mention the crouching tiger and coiling dragon of the beast cultivators. The shadows of the strange spirit beasts would appear from time to time. Even the artifact cultivators would occasionally release the light of the artifact cultivators. All of this indicated that these deviant cultivators also had the cultivation of the sword cultivator's illusory sword. An hour passed by quickly, and another dozen or so swordsmen arrived on their swords and stopped on the stone wall. Clank! A loud sound like a sharp sword rang out. A green sword ray flew out from the wall opposite of the green-clothed swordsman and landed on Lake Chui like a meteor. The sword energy on the sword ray was like frost, and layers of ice began to form on the surface of Lake Chui. Wung wung, on the stone walls surrounding Lake Chui, all the swordsmen released their sword intent, creating a fierce hurricane. Every swordsman's body let out a sword cry. Welcome, fellow swordsmen. The emerald green sword light receded, revealing a woman in emerald green sword attire. The woman's face was extremely cold, and there was a murderous aura between her eyebrows. Although she called out to everyone, there was not much warmth in her eyes. Zung, zung, zung. Dozens of sword lights that were not inferior to the female swordsman's flew out from the stone walls and landed on the surface of Lake Chui. Although the swordsmen appeared to be standing in a disorderly manner, they were clearly positioned from top to bottom and left to right. It was obvious that this was a very profound sword formation. I am Black Phoenix Sword Sex Lu Ruochang. Greetings, fellow swordsmen. The female swordsman cupped her fists and bowed towards the crowd. Greetings, LV Jianyu. The swordsmen also cupped their fists in return. Lu Ruochang straightened up and said coldly, "The sword Dao war has been going on for more than a year. Our sword cultivators have suffered great losses. On the other hand, the Dao sect cultivators did not suffer many losses either. The Dao sect has the advantage in numbers. If we sword cultivators are unable to find a way to win and obtain victory in a short period of time, we will definitely be forced to retreat in the end." LV Jianyu, that's easy for you to say. Do you have a way to win? A tall, middle-aged sword cultivator dressed in red swordsman attire coldly replied. We sword cultivators have fought countless battles with the Dao sect. We've always had the upper hand in the beginning. Later on, we were gradually pushed back. In the end, we were forced to retreat to the sword realm. There were even many great battles where we were forced to retreat at the beginning. Could it be that my sword cultivator seniors aren't as smart as you? Hee, so it's Qin Jian of the Void Heaven Sword School. A rare smile appeared on Lu Ruochang's face. Swordsman Qin, you're now famous in the Dao sect. They've searched the entire border between the state of Xi and the Sword region to find you. I heard that your bounty has risen to an extremely high level. Haha, this Qin is untalented. Qin Jian laughed coldly. I Qin do not know how to win. I only want to kill as many cultivators as possible. Once I kill them one by one, wouldn't the cultivators retreat? If it's as sword friend Qin said, then it's simple. Another old man dressed in khaki swordsman attire shook his head. There are as many cultivators as there are hairs on a cow. Even if they stand there and let us kill them, I'm afraid we won't be able to kill them all. Swordsman Yuan Qing, does everyone in the skyscraper sword school have such thoughts? Are you scared witless by a bunch of pigs? Qin Jian glanced at the old man and sneered. Haha, I won't be so stupid as to kill those useless pigs. Yuan Qing of the Matian sword sect smiled, and did not refute. Sigh, yes, if it were so simple, then there wouldn't be thousands of remains of sword cultivators in the sword tomb. There wouldn't be thousands of broken swords wailing. Lu Ruochang also sighed. At this moment, a middle-aged swordsman with a red face said, Swordsman Lu, this is only the first stage of the battle. We only need to follow the instructions of our masters and kill as many cultivators as possible, so that we won't be forced back to the sword realm. Why are you so pessimistic? Chu Jianchong from the Xianjian sect? Lu Ruochang glanced at the middle-aged swordsman and asked, How is Duan Yuming, swordsman Duan? The 4 people from your Xianjian sect have all died at the hands of cultivators. Our battle this time also originated from your Xianjian sect. You should be on my side. Thank you for your concern, swordsman Lu. Senior Duan's primordial spirit has returned, and has entered the Xianjian sect's sword pool to recuperate. If he can find a suitable body, he can take over it. Otherwise, he can't use the secret technique of weapon cultivators to feed the sword with his body and become a sword spirit. Chu Jiancheng said in a sorrowful voice. How sad. Lu Ruochang sighed softly. This sword is naturally on LV Jianyo's side. Chu Jiancheng cupped his hands and said, however, Chu thinks that we don't need to think too much. We only need to exhaust the strength of the Xianjian sect in the early stages of the battle, and kill all the Qi refinement and foundation establishment disciples. This is to complete the task given by our masters. It's all nonsense. A drawn-out voice sounded. It was a weapon cultivator whose body was flashing with a faint brilliance. The weapon cultivator was extremely tall, like a bamboo pole. In the brilliance, there were several sections of a pagoda faintly visible. Didn't I hear that LV Jiancheng was going to set up a formation in the sword catacomb? What's the situation? The weapon cultivator said coldly. I thought that everything was in order. I only need to lure all the cultivators to the sword catacomb. That's why I came over. If I'm going to listen to your nonsense, I'm going to turn back. Hehe, so it's Senior Fan Kui Yuan from the 7 Spiritual Mountains. Lu Ruochang smiled and said, Senior Fan, don't be anxious. How can the illusory sword formation be easy to set up? Moreover, a simple sword formation may not be able to trap so many cultivators. I've left some assassins in the illusory sword formation. This isn't something that can be done easily. Oh, then I've wrongly accused you? If there's anything you need the 7 spiritual mountains to do, just say it. If those formation weapons are to be used, I'll personally go into battle. With Senior Fan's words, I'm 100 times more confident. Lu Ruochang cupped his hands and said, I've invited all of you here to ask about your preparations. So you've already made preparations. Not bad, not bad. Fan Kui Yuan nodded with a smile. Sword friends from the Clear Sword Sect, Lunar Sun Sword Sect, Flame Bamboo Sword Sect, Failing Sword Manor and Soaring Wind Sword Sect? What's your situation? Can you tell us about it? Lu Ruochang's gaze swept across everyone, and the green-robed swordsman shrunk his neck slightly. Lu Ruochang was very sharp, and a trace of sternness flashed in his eyes. He then looked at the others. Zhong Haoshuan from the Clear Sword Sect greets all of you. An extremely robust swordsman cupped his hands and said, My Clear Sword Sect has already found the sword spirit used in the illusory sword formation. If I'm not wrong, we should be able to find it within 3 months. Good. Lu Ruochang clapped his hands and praised. The yin-yang sword spirit that the Clear Sword Sect is looking for is the most demanding. I didn't expect sword friend Zhong to be so capable to have found it in such a short period of time. It's really praiseworthy. Chapter 23:11. My luck is indeed not bad. But this is also because the heavens are protecting my sword region. That Dao sect cultivator's luck has come to an end. Let them know who the true king of the Dawn Rain continent is. Zhong Haoshuan nodded coldly. Mu Ting of the Lunar Sword Sect greets my fellow swordsman. A female swordsman dressed similarly to LV Ruochang stepped forward and bowed. However, this female swordsman's face was as beautiful as a flower, and she smiled wholeheartedly. The sword spirit that my Lunar Sword Sect was looking for has been obtained. It is currently being nurtured in my Lunar Sword Valley's sword pool. If the illusory sword formation needs to be used, I can retrieve it at any time. The following 2 people, Tian Simu of the Flaming Bamboo Sword Sect and Ruo Ling of the Failing Sword Manor, both spoke about the results of their sections. The sword spirit and other items that they needed were all prepared. As long as LV Ruochang gave the order, the illusory sword great battle could begin. Good. Seeing that the swordsmen had completed their tasks extremely well, LV Ruochang smiled and said, Thank you for your assistance, fellow swordsmen. I am extremely grateful. Back then, when you recommended me to take charge of the illusory sword formation, I was very nervous. With all of you sword friends working tirelessly, this sword finally has some confidence in my heart. LV Jianyu, the weapon cultivator Fan Ming Yuan, frowned slightly and said, I know about this illusory sword formation. I have used it before. Just by relying on it, this formation can kill Dao sect cultivators in the middle stage of the Golden Core stage, but it will be troublesome to deal with those in the late stage of the Golden Core stage. Moreover, with so many foundation establishment and Qi refinement cultivators, the illusory sword formation might not be able to withstand it, right? Senior Fan is right, LV Ruochang said respectfully. However, the last time this formation was set up was 3,000 years ago. Back then, countless Dao sect cultivators were killed, and the Golden Core cultivators were also frightened. If not for the 3 late-stage Golden Core cultivators who suddenly became nascent souls, I am afraid that we would have achieved even more glorious results. Yes, since you know, could it be that your illusory sword formation is even more powerful than the previous one? Of course. Lu Ruochang nodded his head confidently. This time, I have set up the illusory sword formation in the sword tomb. Firstly, I can make use of the sword intent of the remnant sword in the sword tomb to increase the lethality of the illusory sword formation. Secondly, I can make use of the metal qi in the sword tomb to suppress the spiritual qi between the Dao sect cultivators and the heaven and earth, preventing any more Golden Core cultivators from conceiving. In this way, not only can we kill cultivators in a large area, we can even kill late Golden Core stage cultivators. Yes, what LV Jinyu said makes sense. Weapon cultivator Fan Mingyuan nodded slightly. There are very few cultivators with a metal attribute constitution in the 3 cultivation kingdoms. Furthermore, it's unlikely that they'll be able to use the metal qi within the sword tomb. Furthermore, the sword catacomb is the most eye-catching place for sword cultivators and the Dao sect. You set up the illusory sword array there to lure them into the trap. They will definitely be surprised. Hee, isn't this what the Dao sect meant by catching the enemy off guard? A swordsman laughed. I still have some misgivings. Weapon cultivator Fan Mingyuan was still worried. There are a lot of Foundation establishment disciples in the Dao sect. Our illusory sword array doesn't have a sword cultivator to support it. I'm afraid Senior Fan. LV Ruochang was not angry at Fan Mingyuan's insistence on getting to the bottom of the matter. Instead, he was very willing for him to ask. LV Ruochang replied with a smile. This is one of the things that I want to tell you. As he spoke, LV Ruochang looked at the green-robed swordsman and said with a smile. Ling Yunwu from the Lingfeng sword sect, have you received what I gave you? Have you found the spirit-swallowing bugs? Ah, spirit-swallowing bugs? Hearing this, all the sword cultivators were stunned and looked at each other. Fan Mingyuan asked curiously, LV Jianyu, are you talking about the spirit-swallowing bugs? Yes. LV Ruochang looked away from Ling Yunwu and replied with a smile. I found some records about the spirit-swallowing bugs in the ancient books of the Black Phoenix sword sect. 100 years ago, when I was traveling in the Meng Mountains, I happened to get the black silk wood. Therefore, I gave it to Ling Jianyu and asked him to find the spirit-swallowing bugs. After all, the spirit-swallowing bugs are near the Chestnut Valley, which is the closest to the Lingfeng sword sect. Well, I kind of understand now. Fan Mingyuan nodded slightly. LV Jianyu planned to use the spirit-swallowing bugs to devour the qi refining and Foundation establishment cultivators, and then use the illusory sword array to deal with the rest of the cultivators? Exactly. Lu Ruochang's tone was slightly arrogant as he said, this worm is the head of all spiritual worms in the world. It loves to devour spiritual energy, Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures refined by Taoist cultivators, as well as their vital essence. It is very suitable to kill cultivators. I set a part of the illusory sword array especially for the spirit-swallowing bugs. Let's call it the spirit-swallowing array for now. As long as Foundation building stage and Qi refining stage disciples enter this formation, they will certainly be killed by the spirit-swallowing bugs. Well, good. The few weapon cultivators beside Fan Mingyuan also nodded slightly. However, the few beast cultivators beside them had unsightly expressions on their faces. Ling Jianyu, have you found the spirit-swallowing bugs? Fan Mingyuan looked at Ling Yunwu again. Haha, why don't you say anything? Do you want to give me a surprise? LV Ruochang smiled again, which was rare. After all, the spirit-swallowing bugs was her trick, and she had already given the windy silk wood to the Lingfeng sword sect, which was the safest step in the illusory sword array. She didn't think there would be any mistakes. Well, Ling Yunwu, who was in cyan clothes, was a little embarrassed. He mumbled and hesitated. Thump. LV Ruochang felt something was wrong and said coldly, LV Jianyu, what do you mean? I gave you the windy silk wood and the sword pouch. Don't tell me you didn't see them. Of course not. Ling Yunwu smiled apologetically. I've already got the windy silk wood and the sword pouch, and I've been to Chestnut Valley many times. According to LV Jianyu's records, I finally found some clues. Although I can't be completely sure, but in that case, why don't you tell me directly? LV Ruochang was relieved. It's just that, when I was on my way here, I received a flying sword message from the sword sect. Ling Yunwu gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, more than 30 bright sword third-grade disciples I sent to find the spirit-swallowing bugs were all killed. More than 30 bright sword third-grade disciples? All killed. LV Ruochang was also surprised. The Taoism sect actually attacked Chestnut Valley? Was there a gold core cultivator? Well, Ling Yunwu said awkwardly. The Taoism sect cultivators haven't attacked Chestnut Valley yet. These disciples were killed near White Jade Mountain. Didn't your disciples go to Chestnut Valley to find the spirit-swallowing bugs? Why did they go to White Jade Mountain? LV Ruochang sneered. Ling Jianyu, don't tell me. You gave the sword pouch and the black silk wood to your disciples. That's right. That's right. Ling Yunwu's expression was uncertain. LV Ruochang's expression changed greatly. He stared at Ling Yunwu for a long time and sneered. Ling Jianyu, you're really at ease. That's the black silk wood, one of the few spiritual woods that can be used to find the spirit-swallowing bugs. You actually let your disciples, who are only at the bright sword realm, be in charge of it. And that sword pouch, although it's empty, it's still a treasure. You don't have to worry about letting people hold it. Do you really think that the things of my Black Phoenix sword sect are not things? Alas, no matter what LV Jianyu says, I can't refute it. Ling Yunwu smiled bitterly. I already had a plan last time. I was going to go there personally, but with LV Jianyu's spiritual sword summoning me, I dare not come. Moreover, I was afraid of delaying LV Jianyu's important matter. So I sent my capable disciples. I wanted to give you all a surprise during this period. But who knew? That your proud disciples actually ran to the White Jade Mountain and were killed by the practitioners of the Gold Core realm? LV Ruochang seemed to be ruthless and said coldly, I've already explained the matter of the spirit-swallowing bugs clearly. The spirit-swallowing bugs are the most important part of the illusory sword formation. If your Lingfeng sword sect delays this matter, you'll have to bear the consequences. Yes. What else could Ling Yunwu say? He cupped his hands and said, I feel guilty. When this matter is over, I'll immediately go to the White Jade Mountain and find the black silk wood and the sword pouch to atone for my mistakes. Atone for your mistakes? What kind of achievements do you have? LV Ruochang sneered. Who knows which Gold Core realm practitioner killed the 30 swordsmen? Where are you going to find him? LV Jianyu. A beast practitioner who had been silent for a long time whispered. You don't only need the black silk wood to find the spirit-swallowing bugs, right? There are a few other kinds. And if we know the approximate location of the spirit-swallowing bugs, our Quilted Mountain sect has a secret technique that can help us find them. LV Ruochang looked up at the beast practitioner, who was as short as a baby, and sighed. Where are we going to find the other kinds of spiritual objects? Besides, I know that the Quilted Mountain sect and the 7 spiritual mountains have this secret technique, but I'm sure Senior Green Peak knows the consequences of the secret technique better than I do, right? Alas, what's the point of talking about the consequences at this point? Green Peak said bitterly. We beast practitioners have always been regarded as abnormal by the Taoist sect. We're indebted to the sword practitioners for protecting us. Now, as long as we can use our beast practitioners, we'll do it even if we have to sacrifice our lives. Okay. LV Ruochang nodded and didn't comment. Let's wait for my news. Ling Yunwu felt very guilty and smiled apologetically. If news of my death comes, Senior Green Peak will make the decision. What are you talking about? Fan Mingyuan scolded. Although we don't cultivate Taoist techniques and don't understand karma, we're still cultivators in the world. You can't speak nonsense. Yes, I understand. Ling Yunwu hurriedly bowed. Humph. LV Ruochang glanced at Ling Yunwu coldly. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a bird's cry. It was like a mournful wail that soared into the sky. It pierced everyone's ears and immediately disrupted the tranquility of the valley. Even the quiet sound of the lake had layers of ripples. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian. Come. Chapter 23:12. Who is it? The swordsmen were shocked and turned to look. A yellow light flashed, and from the light, a giant rock that was hundreds of feet in size rushed into the valley, closely rubbing against the cracks in the valley. Once the giant rock entered the valley, it immediately spread its wings. Its huge wings flapped, and the wind howled, casting its shadow on Lake Chui. The giant rock did not stop. Instead, it circled above Lake Chui, and its sharp eyes swept past the swordsmen. The swordsmen, weapon cultivators, and beast cultivators felt a chill in their hearts. Then their faces became respectful again, and they bowed in unison. After the giant rock circled around Lake Chui, it proudly landed on the stone wall and retracted its wings. At this moment, two distinct figures, one tall and one short, were revealed on the giant rock's back. The most conspicuous one was naturally the tall one. This person was 3 feet tall, had thick arms and a muscular body. On his head, which was much larger than a dipper, was a big red nose. It was very eye-catching. Looking at the short figure, he was shorter than an ordinary person by more than half, and only reached the giant's knees. There was nothing special about this dwarf, but there was always a cunning look in his 2 small eyes from time to time. Pung! The giant landed on a protrusion on the stone wall, and the stone wall shook slightly. Greetings, Senior Chi. The swordsman bowed in unison. The giant rock was Chi Peng, the valley master of the Osprey Valley in the Hung country. He was a beast cultivator whose cultivation was comparable to a sword transformation realm cultivator. Wait for me. Chi Peng withdrew his figure, and reverted to a middle-aged man covered in yellow light. He raised his hand and gestured. Yes. The swordsman stood up. How did the discussion go? Chi Peng asked. We respected what you said and only delayed the Path Sect's cultivators near Sky Patrol City. Moreover, we are setting up a large formation in the Sword Tomb, and we are preparing to give the Path Sect a head-on blow. Lu Ruochang replied respectfully. Just as he was about to introduce his plan, Chi Peng waved his hand and said, This is something that you should worry about. Don't tell this old man. It's not my turn to step up yet. Yes, I understand. This is a chance for us to train. LV Ruochang didn't dare to say much and replied respectfully. Yes, this old man is here to bring you some news. Chi Peng raised his hand and said, This is the chief of the mountain crossing giant tribe, Lian Xiaoqiao. This is the chief of the Cloud Cave dwarf tribe, Gao Dezhuang. I believe all of you sword friends know that the giant tribe and the dwarf tribe are also participating in this war under the persuasion of the sword cultivator elders. Everyone hasn't seen the 2 tribe leaders yet, right? Although the giant had given him an extremely Xiao name, and the dwarf had given him an extremely Dede name, none of the swordsmen dared to laugh. Their faces were all unusually respectful. When he heard Chi Peng's introduction, he bowed again and said, Greetings, Patriarch Lian and Patriarch Gao. Yes, get up, get up. Gao Dezhuang was very happy and waved his hand to signal everyone to get up. Even Xiaoqiao didn't say anything. It's great news that the giants and dwarves are joining the war, Chi Peng said again. However, this old man has even better news to share with all of you. This old man has joined forces with the elders of a few weapon cultivators and beast cultivators to head to Alchemy Valley. I have already convinced the 2 hidden experts in the valley. As long as the 2 elders appear, the nascent soul cultivators of the Taoist sect will definitely not be their opponents. Moreover, what's even better is that it will definitely not cross the bottom line of the Taoist sect's spirit-severing stage-old monster. When the swordsmen heard this, they all had strange expressions on their faces. Indeed, they didn't even know where the Alchemy Valley was in the Huan country, let alone the hidden experts. Senior Chi, what you said, is Fan Mingyuan seemed to have thought of something and stuttered. Yes, it's that old man. Chi Peng nodded. Moreover, there's another old man, who I'm afraid you don't even know. He seems to be even more powerful than the old man you mentioned. This matter is not set in stone yet, so don't think too much. We definitely can't ask them to take action now. In the end, We just need them to appear and control the situation. Yes, this junior understands. Fan Mingyuan hurriedly bowed and replied. Haha, this old man was just in a moment of happiness. This old man is here today to bring you some news. Qi Peng laughed again. Clan leader Gao's people are the best at the earth amplification technique, which is even more powerful than the Taoist sect's 5 elements escape technique. The dwarf clan's people found many Taoist sect cultivators moving in the east of the Sword Realm. Moreover, they seem to be moving to a few fixed places. Hence, clan leader Gao told this old man about this matter. This old man was with clan leader Lian. When I thought of you all here, I came to inform you. Yes, thank you for your message, Senior Qi. LV Ruochang bowed and thanked him. This is also a topic that we are discussing here. This is a task that my master and I have assigned to us. Oh, I see. Qi Peng smiled and nodded. The younger generation will surpass us in time. All right, you all can discuss the arrangements. This old man won't interfere anymore. After he finished speaking, Qi Peng's body glowed with a strange brilliance. It looked faint, but it covered his entire body. When the brilliance disappeared, the giant rock appeared on the stone wall again. With a long cry, the giant rock bent its neck toward the sky. Its cry shook the sky. Then it flapped its wings and slowly flew up. Gao Dazhuang and Lian Xiaoqiao hurriedly jumped up and landed on the giant rock's back. Lian Xiaocao's body was so big that even the stone wall shook. However, when she landed on the giant rock's back, the giant rock didn't even sway. This junior respectfully sends Senior Qi off. LV Ruochang and the others bowed respectfully and watched as the giant rock spread its wings and flew through the gap in the valley sealed by the hurricane. When the giant rock's figure disappeared into the gap, LV Ruochang and the others straightened up. Their eyes were still filled with respect. Senior Qi is indeed a godly person. Fan Kuei-yuan sighed with emotion. Not only did he find the giant clan, but he also found the mysterious dwarf clan. The most incredible thing is that person. He actually knew where to go. He invited him out. Who is that person? Who is that person? LV Ruochang couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Haha, Senior Qi has given the order. This old man doesn't dare to speak carelessly. Fan Kuei-yuan said with a smile. Besides, this old man doesn't know who the other person is. Forget it. LV Ruochang said with a smile. What will come will come. We just have to do our own thing. That's right. Fan Kuei-yuan nodded. Then he asked curiously, Senior Qi's news is very important. I'm afraid it's a new plan of the Taoist sect. Why did LV Jianyu say that you already have a plan? Chapter 23:13. Haha, Senior Fan. Why do you think the people of Sword Realm are attacking the 3 countries? LV Ruochang asked with a smile. Haha, are you trying to test this old man? Fan Mingyuan laughed. No, I'm just asking casually. LV Ruochang shook his head slightly. Fan Mingyuan smiled and said, if it was the previous battles, I might have thought that it was because of the conflict between Sword Realm and the 3 countries, so we had to fight to determine the outcome. However, this old man knows that the reason for today's battle is because of the 2 girls from the Xianjian sect and the 2 illusory swordsmen that they lost. However, the truth is that due to the change in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, spiritual stones, spiritual herbs and other items have decreased. Our sword domain is too narrow and cannot compare to the 3 countries of the Dao sect. Therefore, we have to snatch their spiritual herbs and spiritual stones. That's right, Senior Fan is right. LV Ruochang nodded and said, this is also what the elders told us at the beginning of the battle. Although the Dao sect's array is not as powerful as the sword array of our sword domain, in terms of concealment and defense, it is stronger than the sword array. At the border of our sword domain, Shi country and Ming country, there are more than 10 spirit stone veins. However, because of the protection of the Dao sect's formation, it is not easy to find them. In the previous battles, we spent some effort on them, but the results were minimal. Moreover, Sword Realm did not lack spirit stones at that time, so who would care about them? However, it's different now. Sword Realm spirit stones are about to dry up. The spirit stone veins at the border of Sword Realm have become our savior. Oh, the purpose of this battle is to steal these spirit stone veins? Fan Mingyuan suddenly realized. The attacks and killings are all just a pretense? Haha, if Senior Fan understands it this way, then it's possible. LV Ruochang and Fan Mingyuan's conversation spread throughout Lake Chui, so all the swordsmen could hear it clearly. Many people had the same look of realization as Fan Mingyuan at this moment. What about the illusory sword formation of the sword catacomb? Fan Kuiyuan asked curiously. This has nothing to do with snatching the spirit stone mine, right? Hehe. Not only can we kill off cultivators, we can also snatch the spirit stone mine. Isn't that killing two birds with one stone? Lu Ruochang said with a chuckle. Fine. These things are too complicated. I really can't understand them. Whatever LV Jianyu says, I'll do it. Fan Mingyuan turned to look at the swordsman and smiled bitterly. The other swordsmen are probably the same as me. Perhaps this is the reason why the teachers didn't make it clear. I didn't mean to keep it a secret. LV Ruochang shook his head. This matter is very important. The fewer people who know about it, the better. Yes, I know. Fan Mingyuan waved his hand. Elder Qi, are you saying that the Dao sect's cultivators are sending disciples to protect the spirit stone mine? Exactly. Lu Ruochang nodded. The cultivators of the sword domain have been pressuring the Dao sect cultivators. They have clearly sensed danger. The spirit stone mine is even more important to them, so they have to increase their vigilance. However, they don't know that the sword domain's goal is the spirit stone mine. They want to send reinforcements, but they are afraid that we know the location of the spirit stone mine. They don't want to attract our attention, so they are fearless and mysterious. To put it bluntly, they are not even worth a single spirit stone. How should we deal with them? I will listen to LV Jianyu's orders. I dare not. I have already asked the swordsmen of the Quilted Mountain sect and the Wild Beast Mountain Manor to help keep an eye on the cultivators' movements. Now that I have the help of the dwarf clan, I am even more confident. LV Ruochang said with great confidence. Following her explanation, various orders were issued as they discussed. The swordsmen of the various sects nodded solemnly and accepted the orders. This discussion lasted for several days. After all the details were discussed, the swordsmen who received the mission did not waste a single word. They flew out of the gap on their swords, leaving behind Ling Yunwu of the High Wind Sword sect. Ling Jianyu, it's not that I want to blame you. LV Ruochang knew what Ling Yunwu meant, but her tone was still indifferent. In addition to the previous arrangements, the High Wind Sword sect has to complete and cooperate with the actions of the other sections. You still have to find the black silk wood. After all, if you can save the life of a beast cultivator, you should do it. Yes, I understand. Ling Yunwu nodded. This matter originated from me. Even if I have to pay with my life, I will find the black silk wood and the sword pouch. I will not implicate the sword friends of the beast cultivators. Haha, Ling Jianyu, you don't have to do this. The cultivators who appeared in White Jade Mountain were at most middle-stage Gold Core realm. Maybe there were some late-stage Foundation Establishment realm cultivators. How can Ling Jianyu be afraid of them? Don't worry and go boldly. The cultivators who can hurt you are still in Sky Patrol City, outside the sword domain. Yes, I will leave. Once I find the spirit-swallowing bugs in Chestnut Valley, I will send a flying sword message to LV Jianyu. Ling Yunwu cupped his hands and bid farewell. Okay, I will listen to Ling Jianyu's good news. LV Ruochang nodded and watched Ling Yunwu fly away. She also jumped and turned into a sharp sword light, rushing out of the valley. Only the green lake behind her was left undisturbed. Besides, the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect and the Taiching sect were in the same place. Naturally, they could no longer use the drifting cloud flying boat. The 10 disciples flew together with the remaining 7 disciples of the Taiching sect. The disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect flew faster than the disciples of the Taiching sect. Xiao Hua didn't notice it at first, but after flying for an hour he finally came to his senses and nodded to himself. The Imperial Thunder sect's cultivation method is lightning cultivation. Although the lightning cultivation method has already changed to the lightning escape technique, the various cultivation methods derived from the lightning escape technique are still effective. When the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples practice cultivation methods, they naturally practice their flying techniques extremely well. Cui Hongshan and the others naturally noticed it. The uneasiness in their hearts when they saw the disciples of the Taiching sect gradually lessened, and a trace of pride appeared on their faces. Unfortunately, this thunder escape technique needs the help of external objects, especially the inner elixir of the Thunder Beast. The inner elixir of two yin and yang attributes is used to create the power of thunder, and then turn into the thunder escape technique. This is also the reason why the Imperial Thunder Sect recruits disciples with thunder attribute physiques. Unfortunately, a single thunder attribute can only touch the edge of the thunder escape technique. If the thunder escape technique is mastered, it is still far from enough. Moreover, I don't have a thunder attribute physique. With the help of the Phoenix celestial body, I embedded the two inner elixirs of the Thunder Beast into the celestial body, and refined the thunder escape technique to the realm of thunder escape technique. If I didn't witness the vision of Xue Xue's foundation establishment, how could I have such an opportunity? However, I'm at a loss as to how others can cultivate this Imperial Lightning travel technique. After all, they either can't embed the inner elixir into the celestial body, or they already have a thunder attribute physique. How they use the inner elixir is different. Let's not talk about others. The great divine ability that was given to Xiang Zhili, the thunder escape technique, is the most suitable. He was born from the inner elixir of a male thunder beast, so using the inner elixir of a female thunder beast would make it easier. But how to do it is still very troublesome. Thinking up to here, a bright light flashed through Xiaohua's mind. It was a great merit he made when he first entered the Imperial Thunder Sect. Thunder Devouring Bead. That's right, it's really that item. Xiaohua's eyes showed a trace of understanding. This item is not only the nemesis of all the Imperial Thunder Sect's formations, but also the beginning and end of thunder. Didn't I see the image of the founder of the Imperial Thunder Sect, Taoist Master Qian Yun, in the main hall of the Thunder Palace? He was enlightened by comprehending the Thunder Bead, and founded the Imperial Thunder Sect. Because of this he ascended. If I can comprehend this item, wouldn't I be able to master the thunder escape technique? Sigh, what a pity. The Thunder Devouring Bead is the treasure of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Ever since I took it out of my space, it has disappeared without a trace. How could Taoist Master Qian Lei let me comprehend it? It seems that everything depends on fate. Right, what about Qian Qinghua? This guy hibernated and never appeared again. It's been dozens of years. Why haven't I seen any traces of him? I'm afraid he has met with disaster. While Xiaohua's thoughts were running wild, they traveled for another half a day. During this half a day, they actually didn't see any traces of sword cultivators. However, the foothills under their feet were covered with more and more snow, and even the chirping of birds and the language of beasts were rare. Clearly, this place was very remote. Fellow Taoists, we will reach our destination in another half a day. Seeing that the journey was safe, Feng Yuan's vigilance also weakened. Seeing that flying was very boring, he laughed and said loudly. His voice was not soft, and the snow on the mountain wall was disturbed. At the peak, first a palm-sized snowflake fell. Then as the snowflake fell, more and more snowflakes fell. Not long after, an overwhelming amount of snow fell from the sky like a collapsing mountain. The disciples of the Taiching sect and the Imperial Lightning sect were flying between two tall mountains. The snow on top of the canyon was extremely powerful, and it covered the entire canyon. Everyone's divine sense swept over, and saw that the snowflakes were like dust, and the accumulated snow was like a tide, covering half of the sky. Ah? Snow avalanche? Feng Yuan was shocked. He really didn't expect that just one sentence from him would cause such a big trouble. He had heard about this avalanche from the guards of Sky Patrol City, but he never thought that he would actually encounter one. Quickly fly. At this moment, no one dared to hesitate. No one wanted to fight against the heavenly might. Although the avalanche was still very far away, it was still an aurora after all. If they were really buried by the snow, even if they were Foundation establishment cultivators, their vitality would be greatly damaged. Moreover, the most important thing was that he had lost all face. surging like waves, falling like a mountain peak. Although this small amount of snow is very light and humble, when there is a lot of it, it actually has such great power. Heaven and earth are so mysterious. Any inconspicuous place can be a reference for us cultivators. Xiaohua unhurriedly flew behind everyone, allowing the snowflakes to hit his face like white mist. He released his divine sense and carefully observed the gradual formation of the avalanche. It gradually grew from small to large, causing him to sigh with emotion in his heart. Chapter 23:14. Although the avalanche was very powerful, covering half of the canyon, and the rumbling sounds echoed in the canyon, everyone was still cultivators, and most of them were Foundation Establishment cultivators. They had already escaped from the canyon before the avalanche hit them. He Fang Yuan smiled bitterly, and this time he lowered his voice. Captain Cui, it's all because of my carelessness, let's not talk about it now. Cui Hongshan seemed to have thought of something, and quickly lowered his voice. Let's leave quickly. Also, it's best to take a detour. Yes, that's right. Fang Yuan's face turned cold, and he came to a realization. He released his divine sense and looked around carefully, then he asked, Captain Cui, how do you think we should take a detour? Captain He, you can decide. Cui Hongshan said humbly. After all, Captain He is my senior brother. All right. Fang Yuan knew this was not the time to be humble, so he waved his hand and flew towards another direction along the foothills. After waiting for the Imperial Thunder Sect and Tai Ching's sect disciples to fly away for a while, a small human head suddenly popped out from the clean rock wall that had just experienced the avalanche. That human head had a small nose and small eyes like a child's. The avalanche actually happened here? That human head mumbled in a low voice, and then jumped out from the rock wall. It was a dwarf who was less than 2 feet tall. That dwarf's nose twitched a few times, and a trace of joy appeared in his eyes. Cultivator. Haha, there's actually a cultivator here. I found the cultivator's whereabouts. After speaking, the small eyes blinked a few times in joy, and with a stomp of his foot, his body once again disappeared into the rock wall. And just like Xiaohua's earth escape technique, he chased after the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples. How would the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples know that their whereabouts had already been discovered by the dwarf? Over there, they were still extremely careful in concealing their whereabouts, and constantly changing their direction, so that their goal of heading towards Jinquan Mountain would not be exposed. Another 2 days passed, and just as everyone was about to fly towards Jinquan Mountain under Fang Yuan's lead, there was a rumbling sound in front of them, and the ground was shaking. Because of Fang Yuan and the other Tai Ching sect disciples, Xiaohua was too lazy to release his Buddha's sense. Now that he felt it at the same time as everyone else, he immediately released his divine sense. Seeing the situation over there, he was stunned, and then a trace of joy appeared. A few miles ahead to the left, there were more than 20 beast cultivators who had turned into birds. They were circling in the air, and attacking the cultivators who were trapped in the air. Below the cultivators, there were more than a dozen giants who were dozens of feet tall. They held huge spiked clubs in their hands and waved them in the air. As for the besieged cultivators, there were about 40 of them. They all wore different Taoist robes, and were clearly from different sections. Although these cultivators activated their magic artifacts and fought with all their might, their speed could not compare to the beast cultivators. Not only could their magic artifacts not hit the vital parts of the beast cultivators, many times, they were forced to fall down by the beast cultivators, and they looked very miserable. As for the bird cultivators, although there were fewer of them, their attack power seemed to be on par with the cultivators. However, they only surrounded and pressured the cultivators, not allowing them to escape. They even forced the cultivators to fall into the giant's attack range. Looking at the ground, there were several corpses, and they were all badly mutilated. Obviously, they were all done by the giant's terrifying spiked clubs. Seeing such a pressing situation, Cui Hongshan hesitated. The cultivators who were trapped in the air by the beast cultivators and giants were all Foundation Establishment cultivators, but even they were in such a miserable state, running for their lives, and even struggling at death's door. How could he and the other Imperial Thunder Sect disciples be able to get away with it? Not only him, even He Fongyuan was hesitating. He was different from Cui Hongshan. He had already lost 3 Taiqing sect disciples, and if he got involved in this killing situation, he might suffer even more losses. Moreover, the beast cultivators and giants did not seem to have noticed their arrival. If they escaped now, it was still not too late. The scene was unusually quiet, and it was truly a torture. The Imperial Thunder Sect disciples involuntarily looked at Xiao Hua. Damn it! Why are you looking at me? Xiao Hua was somewhat angry in his heart. He really didn't want to reveal too much of his strength in front of others. However, he also knew that these 20 or so bird cultivators and a dozen giants were absolutely not something that these disciples could deal with. He really had no choice but to take action. He Fongyuan was naturally astute. When he saw Cui Hongshan and the others looking at Xiao Hua, he immediately understood. Of course, he also looked at Xiao Hua. Seeing He Fongyuan looking at Xiao Hua, the Taiqing sect disciples also looked at Xiao Hua. In an instant, the gazes of the 2 sects disciples fell on Xiao Hua. Go. Xiao Hua cursed inwardly, but he could not show it on his face. He waved his hand and said only one word, then slowly flew forward. Go. Cui Hongshan's heart relaxed. He waved his hand and said loudly, no matter which sect's disciples are from, since they are Dao sect cultivators, they are our fellow disciples. We cannot let them fight alone. Yes, we will follow Captain Chui's orders. Dui Qimeng and the others replied loudly. With Xiao Hua's guarantee, their hearts tightened. Seeing the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples so valiant, the Taiqing sect disciples felt slightly guilty. They immediately felt that they were small, so they also shouted, that's right. What joy is there in life? What fear is there in death? If we don't take action now, we will have inner demons in the future. How can our cultivation progress? Kill. The group of Taiqing sect disciples and Imperial Thunder sect disciples all flew to the front and actually surpassed Xiao Hua. They charged towards the group that was already in a precarious situation. This is great. At this time, the besieged Dao sect cultivators naturally discovered that there were reinforcements. Their hearts felt incomparably warm, as if they had encountered a sunny day amidst a gloomy rain. When the bird cultivators heard the commotion, they were first startled. However, when they saw that it was only a dozen or so Foundation establishment cultivators, their hearts relaxed. They each opened their mouths and cried out, then beat their wings and did their best to kill the besieged cultivators. Attack. Cui Hongshan and the others did not dare to be negligent. They flew high to avoid coming into contact with the giants on the ground. They had already taken out their respective magic tools and attacked the bird cultivators. The bird cultivators' figures were very fast. They beat their wings and flew up, easily dodging the magic tools. Then they expanded the range of their attacks and surrounded the Imperial Thunder Sect and Taiqing sect disciples who came as reinforcements. There were only 20 or so bird cultivators, but they actually dared to deal with 50 cultivators. The gap in the encirclement was definitely much larger. The 40 or so cultivators who were previously besieged saw the gap in the encirclement expand, and their faces revealed joy. They knew that they had a chance to escape. However, they could only watch. No one could really escape. Chapter 23:15. But just as these cultivators turned around and were about to attack the bird cultivators with their magic artifacts, a voice called out, Senior Brother Jiang, I'm really sorry. As the voice rang out, an early-stage Foundation establishment disciple with a well-built body wearing the Taoist robes of the Nanming sect broke away from the group of cultivators. He charged through the gap between 2 bird cultivators and flew into the distance. Zheng Shua, you! Roared a mid-Foundation establishment Nanming sect disciple. Just as he was about to rebuke Zheng Shua, however, a few more disciples suddenly flew out from the group of Lightning Rider sect disciples who had been brandishing their dermic artifacts to meet up with the Lightning Rider sect disciples. They didn't even bother to greet them. They were even worse than Zheng Shua. You wait, Cui Hongshan was stupefied. He really hadn't expected that when he and the others came to help, these disciples would actually abandon them and flee by themselves. The escape of these disciples was not a big deal, but it tugged at the last heartstrings in the hearts of the cultivators. Even the cultivators with the most solid hearts were moved. Everyone had to face a test in this life and death situation, whether it was for themselves or their conscience. Xiaohua looked at them coldly, and then at the beast cultivators who were surrounding them but not attacking. He already understood that this was done by the beast cultivators on purpose. He Feng Yuan's earlier conjecture that beast cultivators and weapon cultivators were brainless was instantly dispelled. Stop right there. The captains from the various sects were all furious and hurriedly shouted. Unfortunately, it would have been better if they hadn't shouted. Once they shouted, even more cultivators took the chance to escape. In just a moment, nearly 20 cultivators had already escaped through the gap between the bird cultivators' encirclement. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the group of beast cultivators surrounded the remaining 40 or so cultivators. In other words, the Imperial Thunder Sect and Tai Ching Sect disciples had come to replace these cultivators, and these cultivators had replaced the Imperial Thunder Sect and Tai Ching Sect disciples, and escaped. At this moment, a Tai Ching Sect disciple couldn't take it anymore and glared at Xiaohua. His eyes were filled with hatred, and he didn't even greet Xiaohua as he flew towards a gap that seemed to be right in front of Xiaohua. However, just as he flew out of the gap, Xiaohua said urgently, "Quickly come back." Only a fool would reply. The disciple's figure passed by the bird cultivator, and he was extremely happy. Now that he had the time to spare, he sneered back. Unfortunately, just as he spoke, the four-eared beast cultivator on his left suddenly flashed and dashed toward his back like a bolt of black lightning. The bird cultivator's flying speed was simply too fast, and he wasn't far from the Tai Ching Sect disciple. Although the Tai Ching Sect disciple was extremely vigilant, he still only noticed the bird cultivator when he was a few feet away from him. Whoosh! The bird cultivator's wings suddenly swept out like an extremely hard artifact towards the Tai Ching disciple's neck. The Tai Ching Sect disciple had already activated his magic treasure and attacked without hesitation. Wong! The sound was precisely the shape of a plum blossom. Flower petals spread out from the magic treasure and enveloped the bird cultivator, who was about to pounce over. The bird cultivator didn't dodge at all. With a muffled zzz sound, the flower petals exploded around the bird cultivator and completely enveloped him. A trace of joy flashed through the Tai Ching Sect disciple's eyes, and he was about to use his magic power to fly away again. Jie. The bird cultivator, who was originally a bit crooked from the flower petals, suddenly opened his mouth and his body swayed even more strangely. He immediately broke through the magic treasure's attack and instantly closed in on the Tai Ching Sect disciple. At the same time, his beak-like mouth suddenly pecked forward and chiseled into the Tai Ching Sect disciple's shoulder. Ah! The beast cultivator's beak broke through the Tai Ching Sect disciple's defensive yellow talisman and tore off a large chunk of flesh from the disciple's shoulder, revealing the pale white bone inside. Since the Tai Ching Sect disciple was injured, his body was already crooked and he slowly fell from the sky. He was barely able to stabilize himself in midair. At this moment, all the cultivators who were looking at this disciple had a trace of pity in their eyes. They actually couldn't bear to see him die. Bam! With a loud bang, a huge mace appeared behind the Tai Ching Sect's disciple, causing a gust of wind to blow as it appeared behind him. The Tai Ching Sect disciple's defensive light that had been bitten through by the bird cultivator was immediately annihilated the moment it touched the spiked club. The spiked club hit the Tai Ching Sect disciple's head almost without any resistance. Like a watermelon being smashed red and white, a disgusting smell of blood burst out. All of this happened in just a few breaths of time. Xiaohua had time to give a warning, and he Feng Yuan didn't even have time to shout angrily before the Tai Ching Sect disciple died. Their broken corpses fell to the ground, mixing with the dead disciples from before. Hiss! Everyone from the Tai Ching Sect and Imperial Thunder Sect sucked in a breath of cold air. They finally understood why so many cultivators were surrounded, but none dared to escape. However, before these people could recover from their shock, another strange thing happened. Opposite the dead Tai Ching Sect disciple, Another Imperial Thunder sect disciple also quickly rushed towards the gap between the two bird cultivators. This disciple, is he sick? The cultivators were stunned. After all, although this Imperial Thunder sect disciple's flying speed was fast, it was only slightly faster than the Taiching sect disciple. It was far from surpassing the flying speed of a bird cultivator. However, the Imperial Thunder sect disciple actually had a puzzled expression. That's right, it was puzzled, not astonishment, grief, or any other expression. Because this person was none other than Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's figure flew towards the gap between the two bird cultivators. His choice of location was extremely good, it was right between the two. The two beast cultivators naturally stared at the scene in front of them. When they saw Xiao Hua flying, they also followed him. However, after flying for a while, they stopped again after flying for less than half a foot. This was because they both saw that the other party had already moved. Of course, they stopped at the same time. When they saw each other stop, they flew up at the same time. However, after flying for a foot, they seemed to have a tacit understanding and stopped at the same time. They waited for the other to attack while they guarded the encirclement. Damn it, is this an act? If Xiao Hua wasn't a genuine cultivator, the cultivators in the encirclement would have suspected that Xiao Hua was friends with these two bird cultivators. Gee. At this time, the two bird cultivators were also angry and seemed to be criticizing each other. At the same time, they no longer hesitated and flapped their wings, attacking Xiao Hua from the left and right. Ouch! Xiao Hua looked as panicked as the Taiching sect disciple. He was very afraid of the bird cultivators who suddenly closed in on him. He didn't even take out his magic tool. With a wave of his hand, dozens of fireball talismans were shot out. Rumble! These fireball talismans were actually of the highest quality. They set off a heat wave that soared to the sky. They were even more powerful than the magic tools of the Taiching sect disciple. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua's opponents were bird cultivators who were famous for their body techniques. This top-grade fireball talisman only managed to burn a few pieces of the bird cultivator's feathers. Not only was it unable to kill them, it had even angered them. Jie, two extremely angry bird cries resounded. The two bird cultivators flew out from the flames and pecked at Xiao Hua's shoulders like lightning. Xiao Hua's figure rapidly descended, wanting to dodge the attacks of the two bird cultivators. Below him, a giant also raised its wolf-tooth club, preparing to attack Xiao Hua's butt. Serves him right. This was the thought of all the cultivators except for the Imperial Thunder sect disciple, and Feng Yuan. Even the Taiching sect disciples felt a trace of satisfaction in their hearts. In their eyes, the initial stage foundation establishment Xiao Hua was already a dead man. Facing two bird cultivators and a giant, and falling into such a passive situation, even a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator wouldn't be able to escape, right? Just as everyone's thoughts became active again, retracting their gazes from Xiao Hua's body, and looking at the gap next to Xiao Hua after he lured away the two bird cultivators, a golden light flashed in front of everyone's eyes. Immediately, they heard Xiao Hua shout, "Damn it, you dare to hit my butt. I'd like to see if your strength is greater or mine." Immediately after, in front of everyone's eyes, Xiao Hua suddenly took out an ordinary stick that was 2 feet long and as thick as the mouth of a bowl. He actually calmly twirled the stick in his hand in an extremely gaudy manner before smashing it towards the incomparably huge mace. Woo! This was the sound of the giant's arm, which was as thick as an adult's waist, swinging the wolf-tooth club. This whistling sound was so loud that it covered all the movements in the surroundings. Even when the giant stepped on the ground trembled slightly. Naturally, the sound of the wind on Xiao Hua's stick was also concealed. Or perhaps Xiao Hua's stick didn't make any sound at all. When the group of cultivators heard the sound of the wind and looked at Xiao Hua again, they couldn't understand how the two bird cultivators suddenly fell from the sky. Although they didn't seem to have any injuries, in their divine senses, the two bird cultivators were completely dead. What is going on? While they were bewildered, Feng Yuan's eyes shined with extraordinary splendor. It was not that he didn't have confidence in Xiao Hua, just like now, when Xiao Hua was competing with the giant in terms of strength, he firmly believed that Xiao Hua wouldn't be at a disadvantage. But when fighting with the two bird cultivators earlier, or trying to escape from the two bird cultivators, he didn't have any confidence in Xiao Hua. Naturally, Feng Yuan had been staring at Xiao Hua all along. He had an involuntary conviction in his heart. He firmly believed that Xiao Hua wasn't a cultivator who would run away without a fight. Sure enough, when Feng Yuan's eyelids slightly blinked, that golden light came from Xiao Hua's hand. He simply couldn't see where this golden light came from. It was as if it was just the outline of a flood dragon, and with just a flash of golden light, it passed through the necks of the two arrogant bird cultivators. Immediately after, the two bird cultivators fell from the sky without even making a sound. Chapter 23:16. However, Feng Yuan could clearly see that in the short time the golden light disappeared and the staff was raised, Xiao Hua reached out and took away the storage pouches on the waists of the two beast cultivators. Dang, a deafening sound resounded. That intense fluctuation came from the place where the staff and the mace collided. Just like the fireball talisman that Xiao Hua threw out earlier, it instantly washed away all the snow and other objects within a radius of 6 meters. Immediately after, that fluctuation was like the surging waves of the sea, rushing out in all directions. In the air, whether it was the Dao sect cultivators or the beast cultivators, they were all unable to stand steadily from the impact of this sound wave. Even the Imperial Thunder sect's Qi refinement disciples, and the two beast cultivators' bodies swayed a few times before falling from the air. Ha ha ha, Xiao Hua's loud laughter resounded again after the sound wave. Good strength, good strength. Take another strike from this young master's staff. As he spoke, Xiao Hua's figure flew up once again. That long staff streaked across the sky, emitting a whimper sound, and smashed towards the giant who was standing there foolishly. His arm was already completely numb, and his mace was also twisted in the middle. Looking at the giant's feet again, that pair of large feet had already sunk into the ground. It was actually smashed into the ground by Xiao Hua. Dang, another sound resounded. This sound was clearly not as powerful as the first one, but it still lingered in everyone's ears. But this time, that giant's mace was completely bent. It was simply unable to take shape. Even the giant's arms were trembling, powerlessly hanging down. His face was pale, and his eyes flashed with fear. Take another strike from this young master's staff. Xiao Hua was unforgiving. The staff was lifted up again as if it was light. Something shocking happened. Before Xiao Hua could lift up the staff, that giant actually pulled out his feet from the ground. Without saying anything, he dragged the mace and flew towards the distance. That large foot smashed into the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Don't run, take another strike from this young master's staff. Xiao Hua's figure suddenly flew up, as if he was chasing after that giant. However, with a slight sway of his figure, he actually arrived at the nearest giant and smashed down with his long staff. That giant was still puzzled. He didn't know what the escaping giant meant, but Xiao Hua's staff hit his forehead. Needless to say, the giant raised his mace and charged forward. It was simply a replica of the previous one. Another huge tremor, another wave of sound was set off, and everyone was thrown into the air. What was different from before was that this giant didn't wait for Xiao Hua to pick up the long rod again. He dragged the spiked club back and turned around, catching up with the giant that had fled earlier. That graceful turn of his body, TSK, it was simply too vivid. It did not matter if this giant ran away. Just like the Dao sect disciple who ran away first, the thought of running away immediately rose in the hearts of all the giants. They did not wait for Xiao Hua to fly towards them. Instead, they took the initiative and carried the wolf-tooth club on their shoulders without any hesitation. Then they spread their big feet, which were rarely seen in the Dawnrain continent, and fled without a trace. The bird cultivators who had barely stabilized themselves in the air were stunned. They also seemed to have woken up from a dream. They had just woken up from the destruction of two bird cultivators. Gee, a bird cultivator cried out. Without any hesitation, he soared into the sky and charged towards the clouds. When the other bird cultivators saw this, they also cried out and flapped their wings, wanting to fly away with that bird cultivator. You can stay here. A trace of fierceness flashed through Xiao Hua's eyes. His figure also flew, and he was actually much faster than the bird cultivators. He charged towards the bird cultivator, who had just killed the Tai Ching sect disciple. That bird cultivator was greatly alarmed. Without any hesitation, he charged towards Xiaohua, extending his unusually sharp beak. However, just as he extended his beak, he seemed to have realized something. His wings flapped, and his figure quickly turned around, drawing an arc in the air as he tried to escape again. At this moment, Xiaohua's figure was only about 3 meters away from him. At such a close distance, how could Xiaohua let him escape? The long staff in his hand danced again, and like a jade pillar supporting the heavens, it stabbed straight towards the bird cultivator's abdomen. Seeing that it was about to hit the bird cultivator's body suddenly emitted a tricolored brilliance. The bird cultivator's flying speed suddenly increased, and the distance between them immediately increased again. Damn it, if it's half a foot longer I'll stop. Xiaohua cursed angrily. Just as he was about to activate the hibernating lightning escape, something strange happened. That 2-foot-long staff suddenly grew half a foot. This Xiaohua was shocked. Of course, even if the staff grew half a foot longer, it still wouldn't be able to hit the bird cultivator. This half a foot that suddenly grew was not seen by anyone. Hit! In a hurry, Xiaohua didn't have time to check. He activated the hibernating lightning escape, and suddenly sped up. The long staff suddenly struck out, hitting the bird cultivator's abdomen. A mouthful of blood was spat out. The bird cultivator screamed miserably, curled up his wings, and fell from Xiaohua's side. Xiaohua casually took the bird cultivator's storage pouch. If he didn't pay any more attention, that bird cultivator's body would have long been smashed to pieces by the long staff. How could he still be alive? Don't go. Leave a few more behind. Xiaohua shouted, but his body slowed down. He no longer used the hibernating lightning escape. The bird cultivators were scared by Xiaohua's beating. These few shouts actually caused the bird cultivators' bodies to sway slightly. They really thought that Xiaohua had caught up to them. When they saw that Xiaohua was only standing in place and didn't chase after them, they finally relaxed. They didn't even dare to look back, and directly rushed into the sky. When they couldn't see him anymore, they fled far away. Damn it, did this young master go too far again? Xiaohua's divine sense swept over. He saw that the dozens of people below him were standing there in a daze. They were all looking at him with an inconceivable expression. Even the people from the Imperial Thunder sect were the same. Yes, this time Xiaohua didn't use the Phoenix Dharma body. Even so, he still fiercely scared away dozens of giants with his strength alone. He even killed 3 bird cultivators and drove away the bird cultivators who they saw as snakes and scorpions. They didn't have any killing methods at all. Was this still a Foundation establishment cultivator? Forget it, Xiaohua sighed and closed his eyes. The true essence in his body also stopped flowing. His body fell from the sky upside down. Xiaohua, Ming Mao and Dui Ling were already prepared. As if their hearts were connected, they simultaneously flew into the sky, wanting to catch Xiaohua. Good Cui Hongshan, I'll remember you. Xiaohua was angry. I saved you again. Why aren't you hurrying over to catch me? If I let 2 female cultivators catch me, how am I going to explain it to Shui? Just as he fell into Ming Mao's embrace, Xiaohua finally woke up. He forced himself to stand in the air, and said to Ming Mao and Dui Ling with a bitter smile, "Many thanks to the 2 of you." This Xiao cough immediately after, Xiaohua coughed and his entire face turned red. Chapter 23:17. Junior brother Xiao, are you hurt? Ming Mao asked with concern. I'm fine. Xiaohua waved his hand, and took out an elixir. He put it into his mouth without even looking at it. Then he said while gasping, I'm exhausted, and my magic power is also exhausted. I need to rest for a while. Then he looked at Zhenhua and said angrily, Nephew Zhen, why don't you come and support your uncle? Yes, I will go now. Zhenhua stared blankly for a moment, then his face was filled with joy. He hurriedly flew over and firmly supported Xiaohua. At this moment, the rest of the people came to themselves. The shock on their faces was replaced by respect. Then they heard a surprised voice. You are Xiaohua, the disciple of the Imperial Thunder faction, who lifted the divine object from the sky at the Feather Immortal gathering of the Taiqing sect? Yes, it must be you. Yes, it's Xiaohua. I can't be wrong. Another cultivator also yelled with elation. I also participated in the Feather Immortal gathering, and I was stunned by fellow Taoist Zhao's divine power. Who would have thought that we would be reunited again after so many years? Fellow cultivator Zhao's divine power showed off again and saved us. Xiaohua was stunned. He looked up and saw two surprised faces. Then he looked at their robes. One of them was from the Kunlun faction, and the other was from the Utopia faction. However, these two people's faces were unfamiliar to Xiaohua. He couldn't remember them at all. After all, the Imperial Thunder faction wasn't in the same group as these two factions at the Feather Immortal gathering. Xiaohua didn't fight with them in the second stage. Heh, fellow cultivator Xiao, you were famous at the Feather Immortal gathering. The disciple of the Kunlun faction flew over, and said while cupping his hands, I'm Kuxingxi from the Kunlun faction. Fellow cultivator Xiao, you don't remember me, but I have a deep impression of you. Back then, you made a name for yourself in one fell swoop. This coup is truly envious. I'm Yang Fangqing from the Utopia faction. The disciple of the Utopia faction said while cupping his hands. Fellow cultivator Xiao, thank you for saving my life. Oh, you are from the Feather Immortal gathering. Xiaohua thought to himself. Then he weakly cupped his hands and laughed in a low and deep voice. So it's an old acquaintance of mine. What a coincidence. It wasn't a life-saving grace, it was just to save himself. Alas, it's actually a fluke. I'm just a paper tiger. If those giants and beast cultivators hadn't been scared away by me, I would have been in your care. Haha, junior brother Xiao has already done his best. Fang Yuan also flew over and said with a smile, but with junior brother Zhao's killing of 3 beast cultivators, they already have no way to trap us. As long as we work together to fight them, we will definitely be able to escape. Next, Fang Yuan cupped his fists and smiled at Kuxingxi and Yang Fangqing. Taiqing sect's Fang Yuan greets the 2 senior brothers. Back then at the Feather Immortal Assembly, I had the chance to meet the 2 of you. Hello senior brother Kuxingxi and Yang Fangqing hurriedly returned the greeting. Back then, we parted ways at Taiqing sect's Hao domain. Senior brother, he was the first Feather Immortal Assembly disciple to reach Foundation establishment. We have been envious of you for a long time. Hearing this, a trace of shame appeared on Fang Yuan's face. He glanced at Xiaohua and smiled. This foolish brother was lucky enough to be a step ahead in the Foundation establishment stage, but that is all in the future. Now look at the difference between me and junior brother Xiao. It is really 1,000 miles. Haha, senior brother you should compare yourself to us. Junior brother Xiao has the appearance of a celestial being, ordinary people can't compare to him. Kuxingxi laughed loudly. These 3 people were Xiaohua's old acquaintances. As soon as they met, they were very lively. First, they gathered around Xiaohua. As they chatted and laughed, the people around them also gathered around. Their eyes were filled with envy as they looked at the 3 people. Another few cultivators flew up a few steps, cupped their hands, and said to Xiaohua with a smile, "This humble Taoist and the others thank senior brother Xiao." Hearing their words, they clearly wanted to befriend him. But Xiaohua's face was deathly pale. He waved his hand and weakly said, This Xiao is completely exhausted right now. I'm afraid I can't meet all of you. If there's anything you need, you should talk to my captain." After he finished speaking, Xiaohua closed his eyes and no longer paid attention to the crowd. Everyone saw this and did not dare to force him. They could not determine Xiaohua's cultivation level and strength. They only thought he was truly exhausted. They hurriedly and carefully flew towards Cui Hongshan and cupped their fists. Of course, Taiqing sect and Imperial Thunder sect came together. Fang Yuan also brought Taiqing sect's disciples to greet the disciples of the other Dao sections. Xiaohua closed his eyes and released his Buddhist sense. Seeing the sincerity and flattery of the many disciples, he could not help but sigh. Thinking of the pleasure of killing the bird cultivator just now, a kind of desire suddenly appeared in his heart. That kind of desire was the desire for freedom. the desire to soar into the sky. It was as if the Tao sect disciples here had become a burden to him. A burden that made it difficult for him to use his divine abilities. Even at this moment, Xiao Hua felt that Imperial Thunder sect was his shackle. He did not have the freedom he had when he was a lone cultivator. At that time, although Xiao Hua did not have a cultivation method, he could act recklessly and use all of his divine abilities without hesitation. But after arriving at the Imperial Thunder sect, although he had access to cultivation methods and medicinal pills, he had no choice but to conceal himself. He was afraid that if he revealed too much about himself, the master would discover something fishy about him. It is hard to live up to the reputation. Sometimes it is indeed like this. Xiao Hua sighed, but then he laughed inwardly. If I did not enter Imperial Thunder sect, I would not have had so many fortuitous encounters. Even when I was chased by that old ghost Jing Ru, where could I have run to? Wouldn't I have been killed? This young master is being insatiable. But on this Dawn Rain continent, there are giants? Back then, when Master said that I had the special bloodline of giants, he only said that there were giants in the Guihe Sea. Even the Blood Ray Island disciple, who claimed to have an ancient bloodline, was not as tall as this giant. I just don't know if this giant can really find out about my origins? Xiao Hua guessed inwardly. But thinking about the giant's silly appearance, Xiao Hua shook his head vigorously in his heart. He did not want to have anything to do with them. After the group of cultivators exchanged greetings, they began to discuss their itinerary. The few team leaders whispered to each other, knowing that they were heading to Golden Spring Mountain for a mission. And this place was not far from Golden Spring Mountain. With so many cultivators gathered together, it was obviously not easy to conceal their whereabouts. If the location of Golden Spring Mountain was exposed, not only would it be disadvantageous to the Spirit Stone Mine, it would also be detrimental to their own safety. Therefore, the few team leaders discussed for a while and decided to use the old method, which was to split up and enter Golden Spring Mountain from different directions. Of course, since these few teams had already gathered here, the few team leaders naturally had to exchange messaging charms. They even agreed on the distance between each other to prevent the situation of being surrounded by the bird cultivators and giants again. At this moment, Cui Hongshan's messaging charms were snatched away by the other team leaders. Obviously, they had placed all their hopes on Xiao Hua. After the arrangements were made, everyone cupped their hands and released their divine senses. Then, according to the plan just now, they each chose a route and flew up. Let's go. Cui Hongshan saw that everyone had left and waved his hand. Yes. Zhen Minghui and the others replied in a low voice, but they did not get up. However, Dui Qiming said in a low voice, Xiao Hua's body has not recovered. I'm afraid it's not suitable for him to move now. In my opinion, it's better for him to rest for a while. This Cui Hongshan had considered this, but the other apprentices of the Kunlun sect and the Utopia faction all wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Cui Hongshan also felt a little nervous. He wanted to take Xiao Huafei with him for a while before stopping to rest. It's better for us to leave first. Cui Hongshan thought for a while and said, the beast cultivator and the giant have just been defeated here. Who knows, they might come back. Xiao Hua was very brave just now. I'm afraid he won't be able to fight now. If we stay here, we'll be the prey of the beast cultivator and the giant. It's really unwise. Moreover, the 10 people of my Imperial Thunder Sect's first small team are still here. I want to quickly bring you all into Golden Spring Mountain. This way, I can be at ease. Cui Hongshan's words were very selfless. If others heard it, they would definitely feel that he didn't care about his own junior brother's injury, and only cared about everyone's life and death. Xiao Hua could naturally hear it. He was slightly angry in his heart and secretly said, if it wasn't for me, I'm afraid your wish would have been strangled to death by the sword cultivator. But after thinking for a while, wasn't this also his own wish? Moreover, if the beast cultivator was really at a loss and the group of people came back, should he attack or not? Forget it. Xiao Hua sighed, opened his eyes and said in a low voice, I'm fine. I'll listen to fellow Cui. Let Zhenhua support me at the end. Okay. Dui Qiming nodded. She knew that the soul of the entire small team was Xiaohua. If he really wanted to rest, then he must rest. Cui Hongshan and Zhen Minghui's hearts were no longer at a loss. They looked at each other and Zhen Minghui said with a smile, "I'll lead the way. Captain Cui will bring up the rear." "And that's fine too." Cui Hongshan slightly hesitated before agreeing. After waiting for everyone to fly, Xiaohua also flew up with Zhenhua. Cui Hongshan urged his magic power and flew behind Xiaohua. "Fellow Cui, let me ask you a question." Xiaohua didn't turn his head and asked in a low voice. "Speak less." Cui Hongshan said coldly. "Master always said that you have a lot of questions and don't do proper work." "Sure enough, it's true. Last time, you used a magic treasure and a dharma body to deal with the sword cultivator. This time, you actually used some divine artifact. Don't you think you have too many tricks up your sleeves? Why do you have the same tone as master?" Xiaohua sneered. "If I didn't use the wishful rod, do you think those giants would be scared away?" "Oh, wishful rod? That's a good name." Cui Hongshan nodded and said, "Is that the thing you obtained at the Feather Immortal Assembly?" Chapter 23:18. Yes or no? Do I need to tell you? Xiaohua replied snappily. "You haven't answered my question yet." However, Xiaohua's heart was also happy. Wishful staff, this name was really easy to come up with. It was a gift from the heavens. He didn't say it out loud, but it actually sounded good. You haven't said what the question is. How can I answer?" Cui Hongshan replied bluntly. "Pfft." It was none other than Zhenhua, who couldn't help but laugh. "I'm scared," Zhenhua whispered. "I'm scared that the giant will come again." You're that scared? Why don't you show me how scared you are? If you're scared and don't come out, I'll drag you to the giant 20 miles away." Xiaohua scolded. "You're so young and you haven't learned anything. You only know how to lie." Yes, Zhenhua said in panic. "I was wrong. Uncle Xiao, don't be angry." "TSK. Why are you venting your anger on a child?" Cui Hongshan couldn't figure out whether Xiaohua was scolding him or not. He could only reply, "How do you know there's a giant 20 miles away? I remember Master said that you used the Jade Kirin fruit to stimulate your divine sense. There's no reason for your divine sense to be farther than mine." "Why should I tell you the reason? I'm lying, okay?" Xiaohua rolled his eyes. "You haven't answered my question yet." "What's the question?" Cui Hongshan was a little anxious. "Those disciples of the Extreme Happiness faction, Kunlun sect, Immortal Ascension sect, and Blue Li sect, how will they be dealt with?" Xiaohua asked in a low voice. This Cui Hongshan glanced at Zhenhua and said, "If we weren't there, they ran away. As long as the disciples of the four sects don't investigate, who will know? But these 10 people ran away in front of us. The disciples of the four sects didn't dare to cover it up. They could only report it directly. Otherwise, they would also be punished. The fate of these 10 disciples was already decided the moment they ran away. They're bound to die. The four sects absolutely can't tolerate them running away when they're fighting. Especially with the reinforcements of the Imperial Thunder sect and Taiqing sect." "I understand." Xiaohua's eyes flashed with a trace of sternness. "These people really deserve to die. Did they not think about it? We risked our lives to come here. Yet they actually hardened their hearts and fled. Alas, the test of life and death is too great." Cui Hongshan sighed. "Even I am a little hesitant, let alone them." Although the captains of the four sects didn't say anything, it seems that they will only report this matter to the higher-ups and won't take any other measures. If those disciples manage to escape alive, they can only become rogue cultivators and face the joint pursuit of the 3 cultivation kingdoms. And Xiaohua nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Cui Hongshan also flew up carefully. From time to time, he would vigilantly release his spiritual force to prevent the bird cultivator from attacking again. "Fellow Taoist Cui, you don't need to be so careful. The beast cultivator and giant have long been scared out of their wits. They won't chase after you." Xiaohua couldn't help but remind Cui Hongshan when he saw how cautious he was. "Better safe than sorry." Cui Hongshan laughed coldly. However, it was clear that he had relaxed after this. He only flew slowly and did not extend his consciousness too far. It was a pity. Although Xiaohua's Buddhist awareness was powerful, he was still careless. Just as they flew away for less than a cigarette, the dwarf who had chased after them once again emerged from the place where he had killed the bird cultivator. Hiss! The dwarf sucked in a breath of cold air. The small head that had just emerged immediately shrank back. It wasn't until a long time later that he tremblingly revealed his small nose. He vigorously sniffed a few times before revealing half of his body again. He looked left and right. Looking at his appearance, he was afraid that if there was even the slightest sign of trouble, he would escape into the ground and escape. However, apart from the sound of the wind, the snow, and the smell of blood that lingered for a long time, there really wasn't any other danger. The dwarf finally jumped out of the ground and carefully looked around. He sniffed again and looked in the direction that Xiaohua and the others had flown in. His face was full of panic and hesitation. Finally, the dwarf decisively turned around and escaped into the ground, heading into the distance. In the end, this cowardly dwarf did not dare to continue to chase down. Quanjin Mountain was not far away. However, after flying for half a day, a huge mountain range could be seen in front of them. This mountain range was not tall, but it was extremely large and covered an extremely wide area. The mountain range was covered in ice for thousands of miles. It was as smooth as a mirror, and there were no spirit grasses or spirit trees to be seen. Apart from cultivators, there were absolutely no other signs of human habitation. Even birds that spread their wings and flew would not come here. This is Quanjin Mountain? Xiaohua's eyes shone brightly as he looked at the endless mountain range in the distance. He unconsciously frowned. This situation, apart from the ice and snow, was not much different from Qishu mountain range. Even that cold place was extremely similar. Let's go. Cui Hongshan did not say anything else. He directly flew to the front and took out the team leader's token. He carefully looked at it and raised his head to look again. He waved his hand and flew towards a certain place in the mountain range. Xiaohua's Buddhist awareness also saw that far away in the mountain range, Tai Ching's sect's disciples were also flying up under Hifeng Yuan's lead. It seemed that their direction was not the same as Imperial Thunder sects. Sure enough, Cui Hongshan brought Xiaohua and the others to another place in the mountain range. When they reached the mountain range, Xiaohua looked around. This was actually a continuous stretch of green pine forest. Those green pine trees were over 100 feet tall. The crisp pine needles were condensed into a layer of sparkling ice, swaying in the breeze. Occasionally, there would be pine branches that could not withstand the pressure of the snow falling down, making a silent sound. The place where they landed, apart from a thick layer of snow, there were also some rotten withered branches. How could one tell that this was a spirit stone mine? Xiaohua naturally understood that this was definitely a concealment formation. However, he released his divine sense and looked for a long time, but did not see any clues. He unconsciously shook his head. Sigh, there are indeed many experts in this world. This young master's formation skills can be considered to have some accomplishments, but I can't even see a little bit of it. Flying down from the mountain range, Cui Hongshan activated his magic power. The captain's token emitted a faint brilliance, and a fist-sized brilliance flew out from the token. Then it transformed into a sparrow-shaped bird. It flapped its wings and flew into the depths of the mountain forest. Everyone did not say anything. They all followed the little bird and gradually went deeper into the forest. That light was also strange. It did not fly high at all. It only flew slowly between the pine trees that were not too dense, like a fluttering butterfly. After flying for a little more than half a day, that light stopped. It suddenly flew several feet and disappeared into a pine tree that was only the size of a person. Chapter 23:19. Ha! Is it here? Xiaohua was not in a hurry. He looked at the pine tree and used his divine sense to scan the surroundings. Shen Minghui and the others were also puzzled. It seemed that there was no fluctuation of magic power in the surroundings. When Xiaohua and the others saw Cui Hongshan's movements, they suddenly realized. Cui Hongshan walked to the pine tree and gestured up and down. His body flew up about 2 zhang and extended a finger, pointing at an inconspicuous spot on the tree. However, there was no movement from him at all. But Cui Hongshan was not surprised. His body landed again. This time he actually lowered his body and pointed at the spot opposite the tree 3 inches from the ground. Then he left the pine tree again, and waited quietly for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Then he flew up again and pointed at the tree spots high up. After Cui Hongshan pointed at it 3 times, he flew to the side of the pine tree again. This was different again. It was actually 3 tree spots in a triangular shape. There was nothing special at all. Cui Hongshan pointed 4 times. When Cui Hongshan flew to another place, Xiaohua simply stopped looking. Needless to say, there was some mechanism on the pine tree. It was not set up by magic. What was the use of looking at such a complicated method? But the strange thing was, when Xiaohua released his divine sense and carefully looked under the pine tree, where was there any trace of magic? There wasn't even a single passageway or mechanism. Damn, this is really interesting. Xiaohua smiled and released his Buddhist sense. His Buddhist sense was still the best. Xiaohua finally found a trace of abnormality. But before he could take a closer look, Cui Hongshan smiled and said, "All right, let's go in." After speaking, Cui Hongshan's figure floated and entered first. Xiaohua looked up and saw that about 2 zhang above the pine tree, there was a hole the size of a person. It was like the pine tree's eye, looking at him with ridicule. Okay, Xiaohua did not look anymore. He withdrew his Buddhist sense and followed everyone into the hole. The inside of the tree hole was extremely dark. When his divine sense swept, the inner wall of the tree actually blocked everyone's divine sense. I'm afraid this isn't some ordinary pine tree. Xiaohua had already understood that if it wasn't a strange spiritual wood, it wouldn't be able to block his spiritual sense. Cui Hongshan led the way in front, and kept flying downwards. After flying for thousands of feet, or even thousands of feet, a misty brilliance appeared in front of their eyes. It was the light of the bright flower stone. At this time the space gradually became bigger. The entire downward passage was actually an inverted loophole. Oh my god, this is incredible. Xiaohua's divine sense slightly swept out. He was just as curious as everyone else. He couldn't help but secretly sigh in his heart. This spirit stone vein is really a secret. It's so deep underground that it's thousands of feet deep. Whose divine sense would be so bored to check under this desolate pine forest? It's no wonder the sword cultivators didn't notice it even though it was so close to Hung country. Who are you? An indescribably cold voice suddenly emerged from beneath Cui Hongshan's feet. Cui Hongshan immediately stopped descending and looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw that on the stone wall of the tunnel, there was a cave that was half the height of a person. A cultivator dressed in pitch-black clothes was sitting cross-legged there, and asked him without raising his head. "I'm Cui Hongshan, the captain of the Imperial Thundersect's first team. I'm leading my team of 10 people to Mount Quanjin to support the fellow cultivators from Sky Patrol City." Cui Hongshan saw that it was a cultivator in the middle stage of Foundation establishment. He didn't dare to hastily report his name, and took out the captain's token. Oh, so it's a fellow cultivator from the Imperial Thunder Sect. That cultivator raised his head. His entire face was covered by a cloak. He stretched out his hand and said, "I'm a disciple of Mount Quanjin's Sky Patrol City. I thank the Imperial Thunder Sect for coming to help. In addition, since fellow cultivator Cui can come here, there must be a guide. However, there are rules. Captain Cui, please take out the token and check it." "Of course, please." Cui Hongshan handed over the token, and the cultivator took it. He took out a magic weapon that looked like a ruler from his arms. He urged his spiritual power, and placed it on the token. A yellow light flashed on the ruler, and it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Then a thumb-sized ball flew out from the ruler. It paused for a moment, and then flew into Cui Hongshan's token. "I, Mount Quanjin's imprint, have entered Captain Cui's token. When this matter is over, Captain Cui can use this imprint to return to Sky Patrol City. Sky Patrol City has nothing but gratitude." The cultivator clapped his hand and the token fell into Cui Hongshan's hand again. "Captain Cui, please continue forward." According to the other disciples of Sky Patrol City, Your Imperial Thunder Sect's other teams have arrived. The resting room of your Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples is arranged in the northwest area. You can go there with the disciples who welcome you. As for how to defend, how to guard, and how to fight, we'll have to wait for all the disciples to arrive before we can decide. Yes, I understand. Cui Hongshan took the token and kept it in his arms. He cupped his hands and flew down. Xiao Hua and the others followed closely behind him. Such a mysterious arrangement in such a deep tunnel. I'm afraid it's not easy to be discovered by a sword cultivator, right? As long as we guard on time, we should be able to complete the task. Facing the enemy is nonsense. Xiao Hua laughed in his heart. He believed in his own vision. Even his Buddhist consciousness could not find the underground mineral vein. How could a sword cultivator know? This time his first team had drawn a good lot. They would definitely not encounter such a dangerous situation like last time. After flying for another 100 feet, everyone's eyes were bright. They had reached the end of the tunnel. This was a space with a radius of several 100 feet. In this space, there were dozens of disciples in Sky Patrol City's City Guard uniform. They held celestial devices and other items, and were on guard. Before Xiao Hua and the others landed, the disciples' divine senses locked onto Xiao Hua and the others. When they saw the faces and robes of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples, they relaxed slightly. They also wanted to check the tokens. Xiao Hua took advantage of this time to look around. He saw that other than the tunnel where he and the others landed, there were 4 to 5 pitch-black holes above the space. It should be a tunnel that led to here from another direction. Sorry, everyone's tokens also need to be checked. After checking Cui Hongshan's captain token, another 9 city guards stepped forward and politely stretched out their hands. Sigh, it's really troublesome. Dui Ling muttered softly. I'll let this fellow from the Imperial Thunder Sect know. The city guard in front of Dui Ling laughed and said, My Quanjin Mountain is a spirit stone mineral vein. It's not only extremely important to my Sky Patrol City, it's also crucial to the entire war. No matter how careful you are, you can't be too careful. I was just saying. Dui Ling laughed and took out the token. Xiao Hua also took out the token cooperatively and handed it to the city guard. At the same time he smiled and said, Just now, I saw Tai Ching Sect's captain. He arrived first. I wonder where they are arranged. Oh, Tai Ching Sect? The city guard checked the token and laughed. I have been on duty this entire time and have not seen any Tai Ching Sect disciples. However, a small team from the Rock Border Sect came in earlier. Oh. Xiao Hua raised his brows and said curiously, Feng Yuan is right in front of us. Could it be that Quanjin Mountain has multiple entrances? Fellow Taoist Xiao will be on duty in a few days, so I won't hide it from fellow Taoist. My Golden Spring Mountain has 8 such entrances, and each entrance has 4 to 6 tunnels that lead to the surface. Does your fellow Taoist from the Tai Ching Sect know where they came from? However, the Tai Ching Sect disciples seem to be arranged in the northwest region. You just have to go in and look for them. Yes, I understand. Xiao Hua received the token and nodded in reply. After everyone's tokens were checked, a Qi refinement disciple walked over and respectfully led the way in front, bringing them to the northwest region to rest. Walking out of the space of the entrance, Xiao Hua felt his vision suddenly become clear. The first thing he looked at was the top of his head. He saw that although there were no gloomy winter clouds above his head, nor was there any blue sky or white clouds, there was a layer of faint azure. There was a layer of fine light emitting from it, and it did not seem like a cave 10,000 feet below. Moreover, this azure sky above his head was extremely high. It seemed to be several 100 feet high, and there was no feeling of oppression. Xiao Hua moved his gaze away from the top of his head and looked in front of him. It was another huge space. This space was not too flat, and there were some ravines and hills. It was somewhat similar to the mountains commonly seen in the country of Xi. What surprised Xiao Hua the most was that above these ravines and hills, there were some green and bright colors. It was the color of Xiao Chao and Xiao Hua. It was really more lively than the spring gold mountain pine forest above his head. Looking at the space again, there were already many cultivators. Most of these cultivators were disciples of the Sky Patrol City, and most of these disciples were Qi refinement disciples. There were very few disciples above the Foundation establishment realm. Some of these disciples were in a hurry, flying in the space from a cave on one side of the space to another place. Some disciples seemed to be a little slow, or even slightly limited. As for the Foundation establishment disciples of the Sky Patrol City, they should be the disciples on duty, leading some Qi refinement disciples and cruising at the edge of the space. My goodness, is this the Spirit Stone vein? Xiaohua didn't dare to extend his divine sense too far, and only swept it to the left. The rich and familiar earth-type spiritual energy of heaven and earth filled the entire space. Taking a deep breath, he was able to feel the coolness of the spiritual energy in the air. It seems this task is not as difficult as I thought. Xiaohua thought again. Even if I am on duty here, I can still cultivate during normal times. In this place where the spiritual qi of heaven and earth is rich, my cultivation will definitely improve faster. This young master needs a lot of spiritual qi of heaven and earth for cultivation. I'm afraid this spiritual qi is useless. Chapter 23:20. Thinking about it, Xiaohua could not help but feel a little regretful. He looked to the side of the space and saw the cave closest to him. It must be the entrance to the Spirit Stone vein. Thinking about the piles of spirit stones inside, Xiaohua's eyes lit up. It was a pity that the Sky Patrol City disciple who led Xiaohua and the others walked in front. Otherwise, Xiaohua would have gone forward to ask about the Spirit Stone vein. The arrival of Xiaohua and the others did not attract the attention of the Sky Patrol City disciples. It seemed that the number of Path Sect disciples had increased during this period of time. Just as the Sky Patrol City's disciple was about to lead Xiaohua and the others into a large cave, a loud noise came from a cave not far away from Xiaohua. Many of the disciples who were flying into the cave stopped and gave way to the noise. Then, a group of Sky Patrol City disciples who were only at level 3 or 4 of the Qi refining realm flew out of the cave. These disciples lined up neatly in rows of 5. Under the leadership of a 10th layer Qi refining disciple, they filed out of the cave. Xiaohua paused for a moment and watched like Cui Hongshan and the others. He waited until this group of disciples had completely flown out of the cave and into another cave before flying up again. Xiaohua saw clearly that there were more than 1,000 disciples in this group. Each disciple had a bulging storage bag on their waist. Moreover, these disciples' faces were full of fatigue, as if they were extremely tired. Haha, I'll let you know. These are the disciples of our Sky Patrol City, who are mining here. When the Qi refinement disciple saw that the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples had stopped, he did not urge them. He waited for them to fly up again before he introduced them with a smile. Half of the disciples recruited by the Sky Patrol City have to mine in the Spirit Stone veins. Only when they have accumulated enough Spirit Stones can they officially become the official disciples of the Sky Patrol City. These disciples have to hand over the ores they mine to the warehouse. When the warehouse is full of Spirit Stones, the general will bring them back to the Sky Patrol City and hand them over to the city governor. General? Xiaohua was stunned. Sure enough, Cui Hongshan was also puzzled and asked in a low voice. General is Senior Tuhong, right? Haha, yes. The Qi refining realm disciple nodded and said, Senior 2 is a Golden Core realm senior. He has been in charge of the Spirit Stone vein in Mount Springgold for hundreds of years. The title of general is a title of honor in Sky Patrol City. My Golden Spring Mountains disciples all address Senior 2 as such. This junior is also used to it. As they spoke, Xiaohua and the others entered the cave. This cave was also huge. Just like the previous space, there were some flowers and plants. After flying for another incense stick's worth of time, the number of Sky Patrol City's disciples decreased. It was also much quieter. The Qi refinement disciple said in a low voice, This is the place where the high-ranking disciples of the Sky Patrol City rest and cultivate. It's usually quieter here. Due to the arrival of the seniors, the general has moved the disciples here to another place. The heaven and earth spirit qi here is denser than anywhere else. I hope you'll be satisfied. Many thanks for Senior Two's arrangement. Cui Hongshan replied with a smile. When a huge stone wall appeared in front of them with numerous caves on it, the Qi refinement disciple clapped his hands and took out a jade amulet. He handed it to Cui Hongshan with both hands and said, "Inside each cave are 10 quiet rooms, all of which can be used for cultivation. Captain Cui and the other seniors, please rest for a while. After a few days, when all the seniors who came as reinforcements arrive, the general will definitely receive you all." "All right. Many thanks." Cui Hongshan took the jade amulet. "Also, if there's nothing else, please stay in this quiet room. If you feel bored, you can walk around outside the quiet room. However, please do not fly out of the cave outside." The Qi refinement disciple smiled apologetically and reminded, "Our Sky Patrol City has set up many powerful restrictions here. Many of them are so powerful that even the general does not dare to touch them casually. If any of the seniors were to walk into the wrong place, I'm afraid the consequences would be very serious." "Hehe, we understand." Cui Hongshan smiled and cupped his hands. After the Qi refinement disciple bowed, he turned around and flew away. "Hehe, I thought it would be an extremely dangerous mission." Zhen Minghui and Xiao Hua had the same thought. After the disciple left, Zhen Minghui chuckled and said, "So it's so carefree. It's the same as when I was patrolling the Thunder Palace in the past. The heaven and earth spirit Qi here is so dense. It seems to be even better than the Thunder Palace. This mission is really too easy." I'm afraid so." Cui Hongshan injected his dermic powers into the jade amulet. The jade amulet turned into a stream and rushed into one of the caves. After breaking the restriction outside the cave, he smiled and said, "The spiritual stone veins in Mount Quanjin are buried so deep. I'm afraid that the Sky Patrol City has set up this place for thousands of years. Even if a sword cultivator were to fly over it, it would be impossible for them to know about it. Not to mention that they would not even think of this place. As long as the disciples who come to Mount Quanjin are more cautious and not let the sword cultivator's eyes and ears find them, we will have nothing to worry about." Dui Qiming nodded. "What about the dozens of disciples who escaped?" Xiao Hua reminded. "If they were captured by the sword cultivator, they might have been forced to confess or have their souls searched." This Cui Hongshan's expression changed slightly. He frowned and said, "I'm afraid it's not good to ask. This is a shameful matter between the Utopia faction and Kunlun sect. It's not good for me to mention it. I just hope that they don't know about Mount Quanjin, or that they were killed by the sword cultivator once they saw him. Let's go." Xiao Hua was the first to enter the cave. He smiled and said, "If the sky falls, there are tall people to hold it up. Senior 2 is a golden core cultivator. With him around, we don't have to worry." Inside the cave, there were indeed 10 quiet rooms. Xiao Hua and the others each found one. Cui Hongshan and Zhen Minghui discussed together. Dui Qiming and Ming Mao chattered together. Xiao Hua was the first to activate the restriction of the quiet room. Without waiting to sit cross-legged, he took out the wishful rod. The scene of killing the bird cultivator really shocked him. Along the way, he wanted to take it out and take a look. Xiao Hua was a little frustrated and scratched his head. "Grow." Xiao Hua looked at the wishful rod that was less than 2 feet long and shouted in a low voice. With a whoosh, Xiao Hua's hand moved slightly, as if his arm had stretched out. The wishful rod indeed stretched out less than half a foot long. "Haha!" Xiao Hua laughed. He reached out and touched his nose. He shouted again, "Grow!" Whoosh, the wishful rod once again grew half a foot long. "Grow, grow!" After Xiao Hua called out twice, he shut his mouth. The wishful steel rod grew again, reaching a total of 3 feet before stopping. Xiao Hua's hand also felt that it had stretched to the end, and could no longer stretch any further. In the records of ghost cultivators, the wishful rod of the 5 elements can pierce the 9 heavens and explore the 9 underworlds. How can this wishful rod only reach 3 feet? Xiao Hua said. "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.